Hello, hello. Test, test. Hello. I woke up and I was like, oh, regionals is still going on in Europe. So I decided it'd be fun to co-stream top four and finals. Since co-streaming I think is really cool. I haven't done it very much. So we'll watch top four and finals of the Gdansk regional championships together. I'll leave chat here for now. Yeah, basically I was watching top eight and I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. I wish I was casting it or talking about it. So then I was like, why don't I just turn on my stream since was going to watch it anyway. Let me tweet about it. Top 8 was crazy. It was Fede Campo against Michael Kalsh, and the games were like nuts because gate turn 1, each game was like explosive. I really like Federico's team. Let's see if we can find the open team sheet. It's so small on the screen. Yeah, he's got Bullet Seed, Loaded Dice Rillaboom, which we haven't seen too much of with the Assault Vest or Chaladon. I have seen your Swamp team, yes. It looks really cool. I'd like to give it a try. Anyway, top 8, yeah, top 4 should be actually starting soon, so we'll get the games pretty quickly. But a lot of incredible players in this tournament. And yeah, like, pretty standard rain team for the most part, other than the Rillaboom, but Rillaboom really unlocks our Chaladon, and it was huge in that last matchup. Surprised there's not as many T-Tar out and about. Yeah, it's interesting because T-Tar just won the last European regionals, but I think it's not the easiest Pokemon to use because there's so much that it's weak to in the format, especially fighting. Used to be a fan, but now you're my biggest air conditioner. That's funny. I haven't, Matt. I will check it out. Yeah, T-Tar definitely is a Terra Hog. I agree. Anyway, co-streaming is definitely something I want to do more of in the future. So, just want to use this as an opportunity to see how it goes. But yeah, excited to give it a shot and watch some games with you all. Oh my gosh, wait, that was me. What the heck? What year was that? Was 2014 probably? Yeah, 2014. That's so funny. I don't think I've actually ever seen this video of Alex, so it's really cool. Has anyone ever called me Aaron just to mess with you? Way too often. Yes. Okay, the desktop audio right now is muted. I will turn on the audio. Actually, I might as well just mess with it right now.
Jamie, I've just been out there in front of the spectators interviewing Federico, and the crowd.
Let me know if I should turn up if you guys prefer like the casters in the background and what volume you prefer them to be at. I'm good, Evan. Thanks, man. Just woke up. I've been trying to stream more. I think it's fun. It's something I want to explore more of in general. Slightly louder. Okay.
Fantastic players. Federico getting revenge on Michael, who was able to knock him out of the semi-final of a world championship, has now knocked Michael out to advance to a semi-final.
I'm not into Clash Royale, no, but it's just suggested on YouTube. That's good. Okay, sweet. Okay. Well, top 4 should be starting soon. In the future, it'd be really cool to do a whole day of co-streaming. It's just a long time commitment. Hello, Jay. I don't stream that often, but I've been interested in experimenting with it more recently. And I love casting, and co-streaming is a cool opportunity to kind of cast. But all the European casters are phenomenal, honestly. They're really fun to listen to. Yeah, Jimmy, exactly. I woke up and I was like, you know, I'm up an hour. I'm up at the same time I am, but I've got an extra hour to work with.
But not quite hit for him once again. It's going to be Paul Hinter that we're going to be able to feature in.
That's a good suggestion, Conductor. I think the only downside is not being able to like cast the games, or I would cast them live, I guess, but like people might be spoiled on the results. But for all those that like maybe didn't tune into a tournament, like especially for European regionals, I think a lot of people like wake up and the tournament's almost over already. Ooh, Marco Silva's in top 4. He's using Charizard Jump Bluff. Ooh, spicy. He's using, yeah, the Jump Bluff Charizard team that I actually found it from him because he used it in the Global Challenge or Grand Challenge.
We haven't been able to feature yet on the stream, so I'm going to be very curious to see what they're running.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Marco Federico as the finals would be so sick. But I'm eager to see Paul and I don't want to mispronounce his name.
And there's going to be so much experimentation that happens between.
I've actually not seen that name before. That's really cool. The Swan is what I would say, but that doesn't sound right.
Left, right, and center, countering mind games aplenty. And we have our previous Latin American International Championship here in the top 4, Marco Silva.
Yes, Federico is using loaded dice roller. It's really cool.
Already again finding success so close to that repeat of the tournament. We'll have to see if, like, assumingly Marco will be going, he ends up going to most internationals.
Primpla made day 2. Yeah, someone tagged me on Twitter about it.
Or whether he's going to switch something up for that international.
It's crazy.
What I really like about Marco's team is how he can just step on
Suan?
the gas if he wants to. As we were saying yesterday,
It's a good suggestion.
Solar power in the sun, Charizard.
Does anyone actually know?
Even if it's resisted, is doing a huge amount.
I'm sure the casters know, so we'll hear it. And they normally get clarification on how to pronounce the names properly. Is there an incident top 4? I don't know. I actually haven't seen the teams. Okay, we're gonna get Marco first. Here we go.
It can do nice things. We didn't realize it had this much potential to make it into the semi-finals of a regional championship.
Certainly not.
Alright, I'm gonna get rid of the chat on the screen so it's not as disruptive for now. No incident top 4, wow.
Getting seated, ready to go. Love to see the plushie metagame being evolved once more with the Gothitelle being right for Suan-Chi there.
Yeah,
Suan or Suin?
That's going to be the Pokemon of choice for Suan-Chi.
Chuan-Chi. Hey, Matt, that's what you said. Chuan-Chi, yeah.
Game at the moment, but definitely could be brought here into the semi-final. We'll have to wait and see.
Marco Silva, really seasoned trainer. Suan-Chi.
Wasn't Bullet Seed Rillan or Child on some GC1 tech? I didn't see it very much there, but yeah, I don't think it's like completely new. Protect Bandit Basket Legion is wild, yeah.
Having a fantastic breakout season there, and then Marco Silva's achievements stretch back all the way.
Marco Marco's top cut, I think, like every major he's been to this season. And he top cut worlds. Like, he's been so consistent.
Just showing how consistent that Marco has been across all of these generations that he has been able to play.
Do your co-streaming views get counted towards the Pokemon Company's stream count? No. I don't know if they have like internal reporting where they take, you know, for example, like for other big publishers and tournaments, like what they'll do is get a consolidated stream report that has all the co-streamers, but co-streaming isn't like super popular in VGC right now, which is why I'm interested in it. But okay, let's look at this team. We've got support Mousehold here. Grassy Seed Sneasler, which is cool. It's the Dark Terror on Bird instead, so it's more offensive. Coaching Sneasler's been everywhere in the meta right now. And then Volcarona's been really popular in this tournament. Like, that's one of my biggest takeaways. People are just using it a lot more. Support Mousehold, pretty underused, I think, outside of Annihilate teams. We actually saw it. I'm going to be featuring a team with it soon, but it won the second Grand Challenge on a Japanese team. And Super Fang's just really good, right? Super Fang Friend Guard is an awesome combination. Loaded Dice Dragonite, yeah, it's been a super staple in the meta. It's been very powerful. And then I'm curious what changes. Yeah, here we go, Charizard. Clear Smog. Okay, so the initial version of that Torkoal had Helping Hand. I almost like never clicked it, so I really like the Clear Smog change. And then it is the Jump Fluff. Any changes here? Sleep Powder, Sunny Day Tail, and Rage Powder, Fire Terror, yeah. So this is super similar to the Charizard team that I had used on the channel, and I had used it specifically because Marco had used it in the Grand Challenge. He like did super well with it. But yeah, Charizard is just an absolute beast. Charizard Jump Fluff, yeah, is so strong.
Yeah, that's sometimes a detriment, but a lot of support able to come out from.
So the question is, how in the world do you deal with Charizard if you're the opposing side, right? Like, there's only one resistance in Dragonite, so it would be getting like a scale shot into the Charizard. If you're Marco, like your goal, I think ideally would be to break multi-scale on Dragonite, and then like you don't want to train negatively, right? Because scale shot can just KO you, which is really spooky. So it's gonna be the instant Porygon route here. Okay, in game 1, Mouse Golden Go. Super Fang is, you know, quite good here. Mouse has the taunt as well. Special attack boost here on Porygon. So Porygon's not like threatening with that much damage. There's really a Dragonite in the back. I'm curious if what route Marco's committed to, because if it's instant P2, normally you can have like Ursaluna in the back and then Torkoal and just commit to Trick Room, which would mean he drops Charizard in this one, which I think is really interesting. But okay, we're gonna see the Terra immediately into Nasty Plot, which I think is a safe option. Once you go for this Terra, you're not really threatened too much by the opposing offense. But you have to be careful about, for example, like Ursaluna pivoting in. But I think, yeah, Marco's at a disadvantage here with the slower pace lead. Yeah, leading Golden Gold Mousehold into Charizard Jump Fluff. I agree. I was not expecting to see this, but I think maybe part of the confidence was the Water Terra. However, honestly, like, yeah, like the taunt here is huge into Porygon. Porygon can, of course, do damage, though, and Marco knows about the taunt, but yeah, this is a pretty safe turn 1. You're not really losing too much. It is going to be knockoff. Golden Gold doesn't look to be super bulky either, so it can't heal up now. And Terra Blast. Yeah, great turn 1 by Marco, knowing, hey, you've got the taunt. That does so much damage in a Mousehold. Getting that download special attack boost is huge. And honestly, even with the +2 on Golden Gold, like, you don't have Life Orb, you don't have Metal Coat or Steel Terra, so even a +2 Make It Rain isn't, like, the strongest attack. Here you could, like, Super Fang or Protect. Like, if you go Super Fang, Make It Rain, the question is, does it even knock out Porygon too? Because if not, then I think that's super bad. Like, that's not a trade you want to take. And now that you've Water Terra'd, you can also go for Terra Blast on a Golden Gold to deal damage. Okay, it's gonna be Super Fang. Oh, another Nasty Plot. Okay. I don't think Terra Blast plus the knockoff will KO the Golden Gold, so I think this play makes a lot of sense. But the question I still have is there a Charizard in the back? But yeah, I like this play because I think otherwise you're really worried about like actually dealing enough damage with no boost. So yeah, there's the double up. I don't think this KOs with friend guard. Oh, it does! What? Oh my gosh, yeah, this Golden Goat does not look to be bulky. Like, it's special, I mean, its HP stat is pretty low. That's a terrible trade then, right? Like, and it was a safe play for Marco to make. But I can't believe that he didn't have enough bulk to survive that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, like, not going for follow me and just going for it, like, you have to feel really confident surviving there. Now it's a huge, huge advantage to Marco. I can't believe that actually KO'd, though. I thought with friend guard surely would survive.
But it doesn't seem like that Marco is prioritizing that in the slightest. Went for Terror Blast on turn 1 in the face of the taunt, and it did loads of damage to the mouse hole. Was strong enough to KO the Golden Goat.
Okay, Dragonite protects here. I mean, you want to conserve that multi-scale, but like Porygon is just dishing out so much damage, and the Super Fangs are nice. It's a miss as well. Oh, very unfortunate. Parting shot. Instant switching out there and then coming back in would have been huge, but yeah, now it's just mouse hold fainting, like, and Terra advantage to Marco. So Marco just has full control of this game. Rilla's in the back, so now you're just so weak to Incineroar, pivoting out and back in. Is there a Charizard in the back? Because like I thought Charizard was really good in this matchup, but Marco decided to not even like, you know, play towards the Charizard mode in game 1. It could be Torkoal Charizard in the back, but Instant P2 Ursaluna Torkoal is a really consistent, you know, core. And Trick Room didn't get set up in this game, and Marco is still in like just full control of this game. I think, yeah, the Golden Goat were out just a little bit aggressive, and by not going for that Super Fang Make It Rain play, like, he's probably not confident on getting a KO onto either slot. And now, like, you get Skill Shot off, but does it get the KO if you double up on a Porygon and you only get 4 hits? Let's see. And even so, like, then Instant just gets a Parting Shot or a Flare Blitz off here. And it only is 4 hits as well, so... And speed boost does help against Charizard. Woodhammer comes out. Okay, it does get the knockout at least, but I mean, Parting Shot here is super safe onto Rilla or Dragonite, since Dragonite just protected. Yep, it's Parting Shot. And now it's like with these two Pokemon intimidated, the damage output is just so poor. But I am curious if, like, I do think, like, Marco still has to close out the game, and I'm curious what Pokemon he committed to. Like, is there a Charizard in the back? Because even though Marco has a huge lead right now, I think he should win game 1. So then it's a question of, like, how much information do you actually want to reveal, right? Because I think, do you have Charizard in the back would be my main question. And do you want to reveal it? Because you don't necessarily need to go. Like, Instant plus a non-Charizard Pokemon could, like, close out the game right now anyway with the Intimidate and Fake Out. And if it is Torkoal plus Ursaluna, you will at least get outsped, but Marco has Terra advantage, so I can't really see him losing this game unless he gets really unlucky with critical hits. And yep, there's Charizard. Okay, so he did bring Charizard into the matchup. That's really cool. Is there a Torkoal now in the back? You could also just bring out Instant first. Yeah, get the free Intimidate, like Fake Out into Dragonite is really safe. Heat Wave here, and now, yeah, -2 attack on Dragonite. And I'm guessing Torkoal is the last one then. There's 2 Incineroars on the side of Marco, but yeah, like, I think Torkoal makes a lot of sense. And that's what makes this team so threatening, right? Because you don't have to commit to a Trick Room mode, and I think Marco did a really good job not indexing on, like, going all in on Torkoal or Saluna. Haze actually is interesting. Hold on. You could Haze to get rid of the attack drops right now, but you'd have to do it next turn, right? Because you're vulnerable to Fake Out this turn. Yeah, like, Dragonite, I think, has to protect. You don't want the multi-scale to break. And Charizard can just launch Heat Wave now. Okay, he's gonna go for Overheat, which makes a lot of sense. Basically, the logic here is I have a guaranteed knockout, and I force this to be a 3v1. So Charizard's just gonna switch out this next turn. Dragonite can Haze, but if you're hazing, you're not attacking, right? Instant can also just knock off the Dragonite, get rid of loaded dice, and once you get rid of loaded dice on Dragonite, this is not like a real Pokemon unless it gets lucky with scale shots. So now I think you can pretty safely switch Charizard out, or you can just stay in and say, you know what, I'm just gonna break your multi-scale with this. But I think switching out Charizard makes sense because you have the Dragon Pulse, right? So looks like he's not gonna opt for the Haze option. Yeah, Charizard actually content to just stay in here. And honestly, like, yeah, if you, by not switching, you don't actually reveal what your final Pokemon is. And so, like, Charizard here, Overheat breaks the multi-scale and then knock off with the defense drops. Honestly, wonder if that's just enough to get the knockout.
absolutely crucial. How to be able to hang on with.
But I think the most important turn of this game was just turn 2. That's a crit. Oh my gosh, it did so much damage.
Yeah, that was actually
Not sun boosted, not solar power boosted with that crit, and knockoff definitely gets the KO here. So Marco critically not revealing what his final Pokemon is and getting to conserve some information as well. Although I would really bet on being Torkoal here.
More options in the back for Hiswanchi that can come out. And approaching the second game, yes, we can say all we like. Well, just
yeah, if Char stays in, the overheat drops. Yeah, the game was over, honestly, in my opinion, as soon as Golden Goal went down. Like, I really think there was, like, such little comeback potential. Especially with so many things weak. Like, you know, it was like Golden Go spent 2 turns to commit Terra, get 2 nasty plots, and not do any damage, right? But once again, like, I can understand the reasoning behind that nasty plot, because even if you survive with a sliver of HP, the Golden Go at least can start dishing out massive amounts of damage with Make It Rain. But honestly, with Charizard in the back and Incineroar, like, Charizard, in my opinion, I thought was the main win condition coming into this matchup, and it wasn't even really used very much in that last game, so it's tough, right? Like, I think, what do you even go with here? If you, because the lead was also kind of weak to Charizard. Marco could always, like, just lead Charizard, Torkoal, or Jump Bluff. I don't think you need Jump Bluff in this matchup, actually. But I think the flexibility of when Charizard comes out makes it really scary.
But it wasn't really the Sun mode, it was just Incineroar, and we know that Golden Go
I respect all the Sun players because I can never play these teams with so many moves able to miss, but the reward for hitting is so high as well. Yeah, having used this team for YouTube, like, it's so scary because every Heat Wave miss is so critical, and Overheat, right? Like, those are your 2 main attacks. You can Weather Ball and Dragon Pulse as well, but you really want to use Overheat and Heat Wave most of the times, and, like, the downside of missing is just so huge on a team like that. Same with Jump Bluff as well, right? Because you're clicking Sleep Powder. Volk could be good if he gets it set up, but it's tough when Porygon 2 is there. Yeah, I think the other tough thing about Volk is it's Fairy Terra, right? So even if you get a Quiver Dance up and you have Friend Guard up, like, Charizard Heat Wave in Sun still does so much damage. So it's just tough because it's like, with this team, even with the, like, boost that you get, you're not necessarily getting one-hit knockouts. But yeah, I think, you know, if you're content going with the same lead, you need to play more aggressively with Golden Go, now knowing that you're actually not, like, able to take those attacks as reliably. I'm curious on the damage rolls because I really didn't think Golden Go would actually faint, but let's see. Okay, yeah, it's just Charizard here. The adjustment. Mouse Golden Go. I mean, this is such a tough position, I think, for the Golden Go and the Mouse Hold, right? Because it's like Golden Go is almost like forced to Terra just to survive on turn 1, and, like, or you could just switch. And it's Rilla Sneasler in the back. I think Charizard just, like, walks through this team. Because it's like, even if you Terra, Heat Wave still does so much damage. Torkoal can, like, overheat into Golden Go, eject out, and switch into something as well. I really like the Charizard adjustment because I think Marco is like, you know what? You led Mouse Golden Goal in the last game. That was kind of weak to Charizard. And I think you might prep more for Porygon 2 Instant as the lead. Yeah, I do think it's a really tough matchup. Super Fang and ooh. I'm curious how fast Mouse Hold is, because if it was like Speedy Mouse, I mean, Rilla Sneasler in the back is just a nightmare as well. But if you are able to get some damage off onto the on the Charizard, then Sneasler can at least deal with it. But yeah, it's like, this feels so bad because you have to Terra on turn 1. I don't even know what's a better lead here. And yeah, the Mouse is slower than the Charizard, so Heat Wave just demolishes it. It's just Shadow Ball, and this is not Life Orb, it's not Choice Specs, maybe does half. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this just KOs. Yeah, like, there's just nothing that can deal with this combo. And now, like, you're down to Terra as well, right? So you do get Sneasler and Rilla in, but now there's no Terra, right? So both of these will just fold to a Heat Wave or an Eruption. So you can fake out into the Torkoal, Dire Claw into Charizard, but then you still have to deal with the Torkoal. And then there's probably an Incin in the back as well, so if you're Marco, you could just protect Torkoal, switch Charizard out into Incin, and then just fake out Eruption. Yeah, this is a really bad matchup. I really don't think there's too much that you can even do, honestly. And, like, this team is really strong. I tried it and I was like, dude, Charizard's so good when it hits its moves. Yeah, the Rilla is Terra Fire, but I don't know. I like, even if you Terra Fire, it's still not enough because you don't do any damage to the opposing side. Yeah, Dragonite's the only Pokemon you can bring into Charizard. I agree. Because you survive a fire type attack and then you like get your loaded dice skill shot in return. So like a Dragonite lead with Maushold here, for example, could have been a lot stronger into Charizard Torkoal specifically. But the question is like, do you have confidence leading that? Because like Marco just had instant Porygon too, right? And that's not super good into that. Oh, it's close combat as well. Okay, it does get the KO.
Yeah, and if that would have been a Terra Ghost, that would have been Charizard winning immediately. But yeah, nicely done there, going for this.
I'm actually surprised to not see an instant switch in. I wonder if there is no instant in the back. I think he brought Golden Go to deal with like Porygon 2, but yeah, like it didn't. He brought it and it was up against Porygon 2 in game 1, and it still wasn't able to do anything since he didn't go for Make It Rain.
Now we are going to see what Marco has been bringing in the back to this game.
Let's see if there's instant here. He might have just wanted the free switch into instant. I mean, this game, like, I think you could do anything. Yeah, and, like, just win.
Makes a lot of sense in the face of these physical attackers.
Yeah. Marco played this really well, though. I think, like, he was basically one step ahead every turn. And, like, he has the matchup advantage, but you still have to execute the matchup correctly. Now it's a really free fake out into Sneasler. And then you... The question is, you know, do you want to miss Overheat? Like, I think fake out Eruption totally works. You can also fake out Rillaboom, but then you open yourself up to Dire Claw. You could go for Protect here. You need opposing weather against this team. Yeah, I mean, Pelipper is not a fun Pokemon to fight against. If you don't have opposing weather, the Charizard is just so powerful. Fake out plus Dire Claw gives you out, so you can't fake out anymore, right? You just went for high horsepower. Rillaboom's already been on the field for a turn. Here's the Terra. Probably just Fire Terra Torkoal. Oh, okay, going for Ghost Terra? That makes sense. So you don't have to worry about close combat. There's so many different ways you could end this game. It's like triple fire into a team that's so weak to fire. And yeah, close combat goes into it. So there could have been a slide out with Tire Claw, I guess. But Torkoal now just gets Eruption or Overheat. Yeah. Super dominant win by Marco here. I think Marco versus Federico in the finals would be really interesting, right? Because Federico does have Rain, so it'd be Rain against Sun. Yeah, super dominant win.
Congratulations to Swanchi, but congratulations
Rillaboom Sneasler lead. Yeah, it just feels so bad to lead Rilla Sneasler, I think. Because into double Sun, like you get to fake out one slot. It's also Ghost Terra on the Charizard, so you'd have to call the Ghost Terra as well. But yeah, super dominant win. And honestly, in that game, like Marco could afford a couple Heat Wave misses as well, because it's like, even if you miss, you're not getting one shot in return. I think the scariest thing about using that Charizard team is when you miss a Heat Wave on something that you would KO, and then it just KOs you in return. Yeah, that was the first top 4 match.
Like, we can't scoff at that. But yeah, Charizard is just so strong.
That was a brutal matchup, though, honestly.
We will find out in the grand finals. And Husuanchi, you can see the game mode they were going for there. But
like, Dragonite's the only real answer into Charizard in that matchup. But Dragonite's so weak into Instant plus Porygon 2. I am surprised it was just completely dropped, because it's like, I think Charizard is such a big piece of Marco's team that by not bringing Dragonite, there was just like no way to really maneuver that. But yeah, I think it's like you're probably just hoping for misses, honestly, in that matchup. That was really tough.
Or are you going to go anti-meta? Because if you get the correct anti-meta team at the right time, at the right tournament, well, suddenly you're in the regional championship final.
And it's making that cool. It's having the
it would be so cool to see weather in the finals, though, like Rain versus Sun. Because I do think maneuvering through Sun is tough with that team. Or sorry, maneuvering through Rain is tough with that team.
With a Pokemon that no one was expecting. The ball's in your court, and fundamentally experimenting with the Pokemon that we want to play with. That's where the fun comes.
What's been my favorite team composition in this format? That's a really good question. I'd have to go through like Road to Ranked and see the teams that I've used. I think I really like the all Hisuian team, or not all Hisuian team, but the one that had 3 Hisuian Pokemon that didn't have to protect on anything. It was like super hyper offense, and it was just so fun to use like Decidueye. Where did Charizard come from? It was a Japanese player that Marco got the team from initially, I believe. Let me actually try to find the tweet. 1 sec. But yeah, like, it was a Japanese player. We had also seen Spec Charizard being used on, like, hard Trick Room teams, I think, at one of the US regionals. So that's when Charizard first appeared on my radar. But then it was furthered when with this Japanese team. And yeah, Marco, like, is really good at just, like, keeping up with the meta and seeing what top players are using and what's out there. I'm trying to find where this initially came from. Marco.
We saw that in one of his stream games. He was against Oliver Esklin and missed Sleep Powder and immediately lost. But then that's the sign of an experienced player, knowing when to take those risks. Because
yeah, this is the team creator. It's a Japanese player.
Heat waves, like Heat Wave, is not the most consistent move. Like, if you want consistency, you need
if
to
I can put it on screen.
With its eruptions. But Heat Wave doesn't matter about HP.
Would Wide Guard have been good? Yeah, Wide Guard is pretty annoying for the team to deal with, but the problem with Wide Guard is you have to spend a turn clicking it, right? And Charizard is so explosive, as is Torkoal, because they can just click Overheat and nuke something anyway. Yeah, I saw people talking about Hisuian Typhlosion. There's a couple of problems with Typhlosion. First of all, you're really weak to Sucker Punch, and Sucker Punch King Gambit is everywhere. So, like, the fact that you have to Terra just to get around it feels really bad. And then you have an incredible ability in Charizard with Solar Power as well, right? So, and Charizard's faster than the Typhlosion as well, which is a big deal. What type combination on one Pokemon do you love to play with the most? That's a fun question. Huh. Do you mean like, yeah, just, I guess I'm thinking like Water Electric because of Rotom, or Bug Steel on Scizor feels so bad once Incineroar was introduced, but yeah. Sand is tricky for the Charizard mode of the team, but Sand is honestly pretty weak into Porygon 2, Instant, Ursaluna, Torkoal, I think. I have not seen the Premier League Pokemon team list, no. Thanks for watching, Coda. Appreciate you tuning in. And thanks to you all for tuning in for me streaming so last second as well. Like, I'm trying to... I want to stream more consistently, and so, like, doing these has been a fun test run to, like, try to create an actual schedule for streaming. I'm going to be playing Toronto Regionals, which is in December, so not for a while. Favorite song off Smile? Definitely Cheerleader. Favorite Pokemon that's not in the game right now? Oh, that's a good question. I don't even know what's not in the game. Any thoughts on Hippowdon over Tyranitar? Ooh, I really like that, Chris. I think that's a cool call. Be the K-Drill of Pokemon VGC. That would be my dream. K-Drill's, like, he's so goated. League of Legends, by the way? Oh my goodness. I don't know if any of you guys follow League, but what a World Finals. Marco just completely crushed that matchup. That was beautiful. Oh, Tapu Fini. Yeah, that's a good answer.
How are you feeling right now getting into the finals?
Yeah, I'm so happy, man. You're like really...
Josh, that's crazy, man. Yeah, 9 years ago is nuts because you've been there almost since the start. Like, I started making content in 2014, but since then I graduated high school, finished 2 degrees in undergrad, worked, went to grad school, and now I'm back. Arcane is next week? I didn't realize that. That's crazy. Yeah, T1 are the main characters. It's like actually crazy that in a game as popular as League and a game that has like so many pro players, it's like it's just all about T1. Like the last there was the first T1 era, right? Like 2015, 13, 15, 16, 17, and then the most recent years. It's so crazy. Faker is such an inspiration. I have not played Pokemon Pocket, but it looks really, really good. Do I prefer Reg G or H? For content, I like Reg H. I haven't competed in this regulation, so yeah. I don't know from like a tournament standpoint. Is there a world where Whimsicott would be better over Zard? Do you mean Jumpluff? Because Whimsicott and Zard do completely different things. You could go Whimsicott Jumpluff for sure, but I think Jumpluff's kit is really valuable, and like the sleep powder is a huge component to the team.
Tell us a little bit more about that pick and why you thought it was the call this week.
You're not a fan of the variable sleep powder. I think the reality is you don't actually click sleep powder that often with Jumpluff. You click it when you're in really bad situations. Like normally you want to use it to just enable the Charizard. I think Rage Powder is a really big tool on it as well. But yeah, I definitely think you could go Whimsicott over Jumpluff, since you do get access to, you know, the Sunny Day, the Tailwind as well. But Rage Powder and Sleep Powder are both really valuable, and then having the ground immunity is really nice because it enables the Ursaluna mode where you can just go Torkoal Jumpluff lead, overheat Tailwind turn 1, bring out Ursaluna, Flame Orb activates, and then you just start Earthquaking everything. Who's the faker of the VGC scene? I think the closest comparison would be Ray or Wolf, you know? But I think, yeah, what Faker's been able to do in League is unprecedented. Any potential future teams for Roach Ranked? I've got a bunch. The October rank season just ended, so a lot of players have been posting teams from that. Primplup is really powerful. They're not really powerful, really interesting.
Sometimes you've got to just opt to click some buttons.
Yeah, I think like clicking Sleep Powder with this team is so stressful because it's like if you miss it, it's just so bad. But ideally, when you use a team like Marco's, the goal is to reduce variance, and so like I would not be clicking Sleep Powder unless I thought it would give me a huge advantage. If I didn't have anything better to go for, like switching, for example, or I had to go for it because I'm in a tough position.
But it's been a couple of tournaments since you've made it into the finals again at the regional level.
You want Megas back? I don't think that's controversial. Megas are cool. I think they just needed to balance it more. The problem was like some of them are just so much stronger than the others. I wish it was like a little bit more balanced across the board. If Whimsicott got Sleep Powder, well, Whimsicott got Sleep Powder, that would just be insane because it's a prankster Sleep Powder user. Would that make Jumpluff truly obsolete? I don't think completely, because like Rage Powder is still a unique enough move. The Primplup set, what was it? Hold on. It had like, I think Water Pledge, Haze, Terra Blast was Fairy Terra. Yeah. If you yourself are making a team, you obviously want a Fire Grass Watercorn. People are talking about the second best team being Dragon Steel Fairy. Like, I think team building, like, it's valuable to have these defensive cores, but I don't think it's like you should index on building a team solely around it, right? In this format, we actually see a lot of people just using like multiple Pokemon of the same type, right? Like Marco's team is triple fire, right? 2 normal type Pokemon. So these are like good baselines to follow, but you don't necessarily have to like always adhere to them. But yeah, I mean like Fire Grass, Water, Steel, Dragon, Fairy are definitely like the 2 kind of go-to cores that people go for in terms of defensive team building. So to answer your question, if like if your question is, do I agree that Dragon Steel Fairy is like the second best after Fire or Water Grass? Like I would say yeah, but you don't have to adhere to it, I'd say as well. Do I have any Sitting Cutie plushies? I do not. No. How do you enter for regionals? Basically, signups for a tournament open a few weeks. Oh, it's me. That's cool. Well, thanks, Justin. That was really kind. What was I gonna say? Yeah, sorry. So for regionals, like signups open a few weeks before the tournament starts. Normally, like, I follow on Twitter/X to see when information is posted. So yeah, you'll want to basically see when registrations open up, sign up for it, you know, pay the entry fee, and then show up to compete. Pledges are really underexplored, I agree. The regional's not over. There's still one more top 4 and finals. Will I try out Ryota, Otsubo, Snorlax team? Yes, I haven't used his teams in a while. Definitely. How do you adapt a best of 1 team into a best of 3 team? I think it's a question of like best of three teams ideally should have multiple modes. I think like best of 1 teams can rely on just using the same like 4 Pokemon, for example, a little bit more frequently. For best of 3, like you want to make sure all 6 Pokemon have a really valuable role on the team. Your question is taking a best of 1 team into a best of 3 team, and it's like hard to answer that in a vacuum, I think, because there's so many different types of best of 1 teams. But in terms of adapting it, I would say like playing best of threes just to see if you have multiple modes that you think are flexible is like the first thing I would highlight.
So many awesome people in this community. I definitely wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the awesome community. So I definitely say to...
Would I like to see more legendary Pokemon like the regional birds? And if so, which ones? Well, give me more Reggie forms.
A lot of people in the community love to help.
Am I planning on doing streams for most regional? Should I check here instead of Pokemon Twitch? I think like for the North American ones, it's tough because I'm either playing or commentating very frequently. But for non-North American ones, like EU ones, I think it'd be very reasonable to stream them. So I would love to do it more. But I would probably still check Pokemon's first over mine. My next event is I'm actually casting LAIC in a few weekends. Zard Whims would be really good in best of 1, I agree. But it also, I think, works in best of 3, which is cool. How about less legendaries? Yeah, I think we like introduced too many legendaries into VGC in Scarlet and Violet too quickly. Like I think we rotated formats too much.
Bring some extra sleeves in case you break a sleeve, whatnot, and maybe a water, some snacks.
Is Topsy-Turvy Malamar good? I haven't used it or tried it. I think it's not very common. I think it's kind of niche. It could work, but I guess I wouldn't fundamentally call it good. How did you end up becoming a Pokemon caster? I had expressed interest. They did tryouts in 2014, and I was like, oh, I really wish I could do this, but I can't legally work for Pokemon because I'm not 18. But they knew I was interested, and then when I did turn 18 in 2016 at US Nationals, they needed someone, and I already qualified for Worlds at that point, so I didn't really care about playing Nationals. Got into the TCG. I have. I qualified for TCG Worlds in 2008 in the juniors division, actually. I stopped playing because basically back in the day you could go to VGC and TCG events and they'd be separate, like regionals were separate, but then they started combining them and I had to pick one. How's Suicune in a legendary format? Some people had used it, but I don't think it's like very good because it kind of just sits on the field. It sets up tail and it can snarl and disrupt, but it's not doing a ton of damage. And in a format where you have such powerful Pokemon sitting on the field and not offering much after like just speed control, it can really allow your opponent to take advantage of it. Oh, what's up, Jamie? Great casting, man. You guys are crushing it. Yes, I will gladly take a picture with anyone at LAIC and events. Linky P, you're barely starting on VGC. Any tips for a brand new player? Don't get intimidated. Like, just play games, you know, try out a lot of different rental teams, see what kind of play styles you like. You know, is it Tailwind, Hyper Offense? Is it Hard Trick Room? Yeah, and like, don't be afraid of losing. You're gonna lose a ton. You know, even the best players are losing really frequently. So I think people are intimidated when they start playing VGC because they're like, oh, I lose so much. I'm really bad at this game. This is really hard. But losing, like, you lose at a much more frequent rate in this game than most competitive games out there, right? And so I think, yeah, being comfortable with that and just trying out different combos to figure out what kind of Pokemon you like playing with is valuable. Let's see. Suicune was a niche pick. Yeah. Do I think Dondozo and Tatsugiri is good for the game or bad? That's a good question. I think, like, the main thing I don't love about Dozogiri is how if you target it, like, the guessing game that you have to play when the Tatsugiri and Dozo combine, if I could, like, slightly nerf it, like, that's the one thing I would change. Because I just think it, like, creates a lot of, like, mind games that I don't love playing. Otherwise, I don't know. It's a really interesting combo, and there is a lot of counterplay to it. I lost against it at Worlds in Reg G, so I don't know. Like, but, and, like, I was also, like, that's the one combo I didn't want to run into at Worlds. So I don't know. I don't know if it's like inherently bad because it's not like broken to the point where you have to use it, and it's not like it dominates the meta. In fact, it's actually not that popular. Although I did see it tick up in usage in this tournament. But I guess if I had to pick good or bad, I would lean more towards good, just because it like is new. It's a new way to play the game, and like yeah, we've never really seen something like it in VGC before. But I think they can tune it down a little bit. Do I ever keep up with the old players that used to play or still play? Yeah, a lot of my best friends are just VGC players or used to play VGC that aren't like, you know, really around very much anymore because they're just living life now.
In game 1 and then the other person winning in game 2. Then all comes down to essentially another best of 1.
Let's see.
Deciding third game. But of course, it's so much more than just...
Did I ever get into TFT? Yeah, I played a ton. I would always get to Masters in the sets that I had played, which was, I think, starting from set 3 onwards, like reach Masters every set, and then stopped just because it was like a pretty big time sink, and I didn't think I was improving at the game enough to like be like challenger level. Yes, I will be at LAIC, but I'll be casting. I did watch League Worlds. It was so good, yeah. I have not tried out TCG Pocket yet, but I've heard good things. Do I think Shuckle Power Trick will ever make Day 2 in a future gen? I think anything can make Day 2, so if the question is ever, I would say yes. Do you know why mythicals are not allowed? It's mainly because they're not very accessible to get within the, like, you have to often get them from events.
Building up that experience, literally game by game here.
Do Showdown and online ladders have different metas? Yeah, I would say so for sure. I think online ladder in game is, on average, I see more like Eastern players, especially high-level Japanese players, grinding it. And yeah, the Japanese meta is always fairly unique. Tatsu is 12th most used on Day 2. Yeah, that's crazy, given how infrequent it was throughout European tournaments.
Don't really matter anymore in that respect. I mean, as a trainer, you've really got to just cast all of that information out.
But what about like the newest mythical? It's basically a permanent event. Well, the problem is it's just like, I think they don't want to allow like a subset of mythical Pokemon, so it's like all or nothing. Now that I've graduated, what are my plans for a job/career? I'm gonna be working in consulting. Where is this tournament happening? Gdansk.
Like Michelle Kelch was talking about, is like, hey, this matchup against Federico Campo.
All right, I'm really excited to see this one, and I think Rain versus Sun in the finals would be so fun to watch. What other games do I play outside of VGC? Just League of Legends mainly these days with my friends. You haven't played competitive Pokemon since X and Y. You were a fan of Sun and Moon. Would I recommend hopping in this meta? Is it fun? I think this meta, most people enjoy. It's like one of the better metas in Scarlet and Violet. It'll be around until end of December, so you basically have 2 months, and then we go back to a very different meta, which allows for one super powerful, restricted legendary Pokemon. So I would say, Josh, if you want to get back into it, this would be the time to get back into it. In 2 months, you might not like it as much. But if you like playing around really powerful restricted Pokemon, then we'll be back to that.
Joining us now, Federico Camperosi, 2024 NAIC top 32.
Future items swapping defense and attack stats for a Pokemon. It's a really fascinating concept, but I don't know. It like I can't see them making it, honestly, because I think it just like drastically like reverses how a lot of these Pokemon are, or like the intent behind creating them. I think it'd be cool, but it's one where I wonder, like, would it actually be a balanced item, basically? Marco is in the finals, yeah.
Almost turning into home turf for their 2 years in a row.
Do I ever think they could bring a case where they only bring back a portion of legendary Pokemon, like Feeny and Bulu, or only Yveltal and not Xerneas? I would bet on it not happening, personally. Torviv lost to crit 5 hit scale shot. Oh, feels bad. What resources would you recommend for a complete beginner? Lab Mouse is really, really good. Victory Road is really good. It's just like great places to like look at what people are using, what's popular, looking at data. Smogon VGC stats is really underrated. It's like every month Smogon posts like the stats from Showdown, and like just dissecting high level, like what high level players are using on Showdown is really valuable. And then there's a lot of other great content creators out there. Okay, top 4 is going to start. So I will answer questions after, let her know about the game, but let's actually talk about this matchup. So I will BRB. And yeah, let's talk about this. Okay, so we know what Federico's using. And on the opposing side, okay, it's actually really similar to the other team in top 4 that Marco just beat. So it's really interesting because it's the Choice Scarf Basket Legion with the adaptability, something that's been picking up in usage. And then, yeah, we just heard Ben call it out, but there's Haze on this Dragonite, so Archaludon I think would be a nightmare otherwise, but you actually have a lot of things that you can use to deal with Archaludon. Close Combat from Sneasler and Dire Claw. You've got the Super Fang on Mouse Hold to just, you know, bring it down to half, and you can Haze with Dragonite.
Not just being able to go first and get the Dire Claw, but that Grassy Seed defense boost.
So let's see.
A lot of advantage of it, and just having that extra little bit of coverage option with the.
Okay, so in this matchup, it's like, I think one, Pelipper does a lot of damage. There's a lot of speed on Paul's team, or like just Pokemon are pretty fast between Mousehold, Basket Legion, and Sneasler, so I think like that can be a little bit scary. I think Pelipper is really powerful here, obviously, to enable the other attackers, but also just by an attacker in itself. Basket Legion is good because it can blow things up, right? So you can use it into, like, the Mouse Hold. Yeah, Mouse Hook, like, Basket Legion here would be really strong. There it is! Pelipper, the 2 Pokemon I was just talking about. Okay. So it's Grass Terra here. You have the ability to just obviously go for Wave Crash immediately here. I mean, I think this is just really scary to deal with, right? Like, Wave Crash is super safe, yeah. And, like, Mouse here can redirect, but then what is Volcarona doing in return, right? Yeah, I think this is just a really safe lead into Paul's duo, and with no, like, Rillaboom, for example, or Basket Legion from Paul's end, Federico can play relatively safe here on this turn 1 and not take big risks. This is really scary, I think. Okay, yeah. Terra comes out immediately. And you're forced to go on it with the Volk. And it, like, feels bad because it's not Grass Terra Volk either. Fairy Terra Terra Blast has really been picking up. So, like, this is just still not going to be taking Wave Crash super well, right? So the idea here is, okay, I'm going to trade damage here. Maybe it just is going to be a Terra Blast into the Basket Legion. But yeah, so like Mouse Hold is going to faint, but you take a ton of recoil here between Rocky Helmet and the Wave Crash recoil, like probably brings it down to around half. But then the question is, what is Volcarona doing here, right? I don't even think a Terra Blast KOs, to be honest, but let's see. Okay, it's going to be Quiver Dance. But like, I guess the idea here is I'm going to set up, you can set up Tailwind, but then if Paul has like Rillaboom in the back, you pressure Grassy Glide on a Basket Legion, but this is an amazing trade for Federico, in my opinion. Especially, I think like Paul was really hoping to see a Hurricane go into Volcarona there to survive the turn, but with Tailwind, like Federico still has a really good speed advantage. So let's see. Also, Volcarona is like, it's like twitching its sprite. I feel like it was glitching out a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think if you're Paul here, Rillaboom and Dragonite are what I would expect him to have in the back. Yeah, but then now you have to deal with the potential Terra from Federico's end, right? Yep. So, like, you could Terra Grass, and then the question is, does, like, something like Woodhammer plus Grassy Glide KO? Looks like Federico's also considering just switching here, saying, you know what, I think here you are going to try to just KO the Basket Legion. This sort of is interesting because Paul could go for a crazy play of like fake out into the Pelipper and Quiver Dance again. It would be really, really risky, but... And I think that's why Federico's willing to make this play, right? Because it's like, you have to cover for Basket Legion here. Paul's reacting. Let's see. Did he call it? Archaludon's a great switch in here, right? Just not threatened very much offensively. And he gets the boost. Yeah, so... He's like, Paul actually tried to call the Terra there, saying, you're going to Grass Terra, I'm going to fake you out. Hurricane here is going to do a ton of damage into Rillaboom, even with the Assault Vest. Yep. And it gets the Confusion. Really, really good play by Federico. I think, like, perfect turn 1 and turn 2. So here's the Fairy Terra Blast. Yeah, into the Basque slot. How much does this do against Assault Vest Archaludon? It's decent, but still not a ton. One of the things you have to think about is from Paul's end, like, you really don't want to be in an end game where Basket Legion can just wave crash you and, like, win the game on the spot, right? And Federico also has that Electabuzz, so, like, Electabuzz with Basket Legion in this end game, I think, is looking really spooky. The Rillaboom slot can't protect this turn because of the Assault Vest, so it's left really exposed, and I'm not sure, like, Fake Out plus Terra Blast brought Archaladon just under 50%. Like, I don't know if a Grassy Glide plus Terra Blast even KOs Arch, and Rillaboom is also confused here, so let's see. Does it attack through confusion? It does not. Yeah, now if you're Terra Blasting, I don't even think you get the knockout. Flash Cannon just for some chip. I don't think this KOs, actually. Yeah. Okay, another Quiver Dance. I like that because, like, the expectation is that you're not going to get the knockouts this turn anyway, right? So now, and then you're getting really good recovery between leftovers and grassy terrain, right? Like, between this turn and next turn, if you protect, like, that's a Citrus Berry's worth of recovery, right? So it's helpful, but it's still scary because Federico still has Terra available to him. It was interesting, like, he didn't go for the knockout onto Rillaboom and just take the free KO. Focus actually still conserved on Pelipper, which is kind of wild to think about. Volcure, I think you definitely want to be Terra Blasting Archaladon this turn, or you could protect this turn and then Terra Blast next turn. But yeah, just leaning into offense. Okay, here's Grassy Glide into Pelly. Fairy Terra Blast now. Yep, into the Archaladon. Oh my gosh, it survives still! That's nuts. Wow. And that could have been a double up onto, you know, either slot, but now the damage is split and Volcarona just ends up fainting. Yeah. Grassy Terrain is also being slowly stalled out. I do think it should be Dragonite in the back. With Dragonite, I'm trying to think. No, it's a 4v1. Yeah, like, I don't think there's much hope. Archaladon surviving that was really clutch. I thought at +2 would get the knockout after how much the first one did. Grassy Terrain was really big. Let's see, is it Dragonite as the last one? I think the lead was just so tough for Paul. Like, what we're seeing in these top 4 games... Oh, it's Sneasler. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's a 1v4, so Sneasler's never going to be able to pull anything off here. But the question for Paul is, how do you adjust, right? Because this matchup is not the easiest when you are up against Pelly Sneasler lead immediately. So looking at Paul's team sheet, to deal with, like, sorry, Pelly Basket Legion, Rillaboom, I think, is probably the first thing you want to look at. It's Rillaboom Dragonite as a lead, because you have Fake Out pressure with Rillaboom into Pelly, and then Basket Legion's not going to knock out either, and then Dragonite can Scale Shot, which does a lot of damage. The problem with that is then you can just pivot in Archaladon. If you Scale Shot into Archaladon, it's a complete nightmare. You could haste to get rid of the boost, but then you have no offensive pressure really for a turn. So I think, like, Sneasler was brought into this matchup because it's the best Archaladon answer, right? You have close combat pressure with it, so it makes sense to see it in the back here. But what makes it so tough is you have to get through the Basket Legion and you have to get through the Archaladon. Those are just two huge threats at any given point. So Federico's definitely going to take game 1. But yeah, the question is, how does Paul adjust in game 2? You could also go with your own Basket Legion. The problem is your own Basket Legion also isn't doing a ton of damage. You'll have Scarf Adaptability, Wave Crash, and Rain. You're not going to get a one-hit knockout onto either slot, which I think is kind of scary. It could be something like Rillaboom Basket Legion. It's just so tough because, like, the Basket Legion on Paul's end is so useless into Archaladon unless you turn on Last Respects for the end game. So I think for Federico, it's like the combo of Pelly, Basque plus Archaladon is just so strong. Yeah, that just KOs Sneasler. It's 2 different modes that you have to deal with.
To be able to adjust the game plan heading into game 2, and I think certainly if you're Paul, you want to be able to get more.
All right, game 1, very decisive victory in my opinion. We did see, like, the confusion, but what we're seeing in this matchup and the other top 4 matchup is, like, multiple setups from a Pokemon like Golden Gore or Volcarona, and then just not being able to actually do that much with said setup, right? It's like when you spend 2 different turns not attacking and your opponent has all this damage output, you need your Pokemon that's setting up to actually get enough value, right? And what's scary here is there's just so few things that can reliably take Wave Crash. So once again, like, you know, Paul, if he wants to adjust this, like, a combo of, like, maybe Dragonite, Rillaboom, Basket Legion, you could also lead Mousehold. You could go something like Mousehold plus Dragonite lead, because then you have Friend Guard active and Multi-Scale active. And I think that's actually really interesting because, like, with Malso Dragonite, like, let's say Basque Legion flip turns goes into our Chaldon, you can actually predict that and go for, like, a Super Fang immediately into the Basque Legion's shot if you don't think he's going to wave crash on turn 1. So now that I think about it, I actually think I kind of like Malso Dragonite. I talked about Rillaboom Dragonite, but I think the problem with that is it's so Archaladon weak. Malso can at least Super Fang and follow me, right? Like, and if you go Malso Dragonite, then it's the main thing is what do you do on turn 1, right? You can pretty easily protect Scale Shot, but then that's vulnerable to Basque Legion flip turn Dragonite, go out into Archaladon, and then just eats up the defense boost. So then you might still be forced to, like, maybe try to make a read where you, like, Super Fang into the Basque Legion slot, or you could Super Fang and Skill Shot into Basque Legion, saying, you know what, if you stay in and you wave crash, I'll just knock you out with the Skill Shot at least. But it's tough because there's also Tailwind pressure from the opposing side, so while Paul has some pretty speedy Pokemon, once Tailwind is set up, a lot of that speed is just not going to be as relevant. But yeah, we didn't even see Dragonite in that matchup, and I think Dragonite's at least the answer into Pelipper Basque Legion, so that's the adjustment I would go for personally. Could also go Mouse with Sneasler. It's Rilla Sneasler. Okay. So here you do pressure Grassy Glide, and you have the Unburden. And because it is... Okay, I like the idea behind this. What's scary, though, is that, like, Pelipper's a huge offensive threat here as well. So you just commit Dark Terror on Sneasler turn 1, right? You could pretty easily switch into... It does apply a lot of offensive pressure, though. So, yeah, I can see the logic here. Just Wave Crash Hurricane, though. Okay, no Terra. Vulnerable to Grassy Glide here. Vulnerable to Throat Chop as well. Federico's so good at just playing so aggressively on turn 1 with the Basque Legion, though, like, leaning into it. Oh, yeah, he tries to read it. It's just close combat. Yep. Oh, man, I think that's game over. I'm going to be honest. It's so scary because it's like if you get the turn wrong against Basque Legion, you lose so much, right? But like there's so much that Federico can do to get around the obvious play of like Grassy Glide, for example. And it's Woodhammer and a Pelipper, so I think you take enough recoil now, maybe, where Hurricane just knocks you out in return. Let's see. Oh, it's close. Hurricane comes out. Yeah, that's just a double KO. Oh, I like what Paul was going for there, but it just does not pay off as he reads too hard into Basque Legion. I think, can you Grassy Glide and Dire Claw Basque Legion? It works, but then if Archaladon switches in, you're turbo screwed, I think. Yeah, Mouse comes out now, but it's just, I can't see a comeback.
Alongside Volcarona, the rain's already set up. At least there's no terrestrialization spent over on Paul's side.
It's just, yeah, Mouse and Volk. Wave Crash just, you can always Wave Crash into Volcarona. What's Mouse gonna do, right? It can only follow me or Super Fang. So I guess it's like if Volk Terra, I don't know, even with Terra. But it's like Mouse Hold was only pressuring with Follow Me. Super Fang and Taunt not super helpful here. I think the game is honestly just over.
Pelipper to go for a Tailwind here. If you don't follow me away the attack from Basque Legion.
Yeah, and I think like targeting the Pelipper like just took away. Okay, Volk protects. Yeah, I mean you stalled a turn here, but what is Mouse going to do? At best, taunt into the Peli slot. And the Wave Crash into Volk here is because Mouse isn't actually the offensive threat, and honestly our Chowdon probably just wins this game by itself at this point. So yeah, you get the taunt off into Pelipper, but now what, right? Yeah, like you can just Wave Crash and Weather Ball into Volcarona now. You still have so many turns of rain. Yeah. Okay, deciding to switch into Electabuzz I think also makes sense. Just to get out of the taunt. Since you are at 1 HP, you are vulnerable to Mousehole just clicking Super Fang and actually KOing you. It's one of those unique interactions. I'm just curious if Volcarona can even tank this with Friend Guard. Like it's Choice Band and it's Rain Boosted. I'm not sure it can. Dragonite didn't come out once again. That was the adjustment I wanted to see. But I can see what Paul was going for with the lead. It was really tough. Like, you have to get a call right, I think, regardless of what you lead, and it's a question of what Basque Legion does. And, like, this trio is just so threatening, right? Because it's, like, normally the things that deal well with Basque Legion, our Chowdon can just safely switch into and get stamina boost. So, yeah, you're forced to Terra here. The question is whether or not you even bother going for Follow Me. He does go for follow me, but I actually don't agree with that, I think, because, like, yeah, you get the quiver dance off, but how, like, I just can't see Volcarona pulling off a 1v4 comeback. But I guess the logic is, like, Paul's going for that if you think Wave Crash is just always going to KO Volcarona anyway, and honestly, it probably does, even with Friend Guard, so, like, probably felt forced to go for that follow me, which makes sense. Okay, he goes for Terra Blast, yeah. So maybe you KO the Basket Legion now. Okay, gets the KO. I mean, there is Quiver Dance on this Volk. Okay, because he went for that and didn't Quiver Dance. Like, yeah, you can at least Quiver Dance now, but then you can Taunt. You can redirect Terra Blast away, and Flash Cannon is super effective. So, yeah, I like Taunt Flash Cannon here. And then now you can Electro Web as well. But, okay, maybe Volk can do something here.
Before being taunted, so at least it gets a little bit of a boost to his stats here, and now it cannot go for any
Taunt, yep.
And the Volcarona is a sitting moth on the field right now for this Archer.
Yeah, great Electro Shot as well, just to get the free special attack boost.
To boost up your special attack here in the face of the Volcarona's boost.
Yeah, I can't see Volk actually pulling this off, because you can always switch in Pelipper to just set up the rain again, so Heat Wave does less damage. Yeah, that's like really reasonable damage as well. You can Electro Web to drop Volk speed as well.
Of course, the Volcarona cannot get carried away anymore because
if you got like a cajillion crits, you can't even protect for leftover recovery, so I think it's still doomed, but yeah. Follow me just to protect, yeah, getting Flash Cannon. I think you could probably go follow me Electro Shock here, but I don't know if it really makes a difference at the end of the day. So let's see if it's a Heat Wave coming out. Okay, calls the follow me, but that does nothing, yeah. It's just so weak. Now it's basically regular Flash Cannon. Yeah, another one just gets the KO, so this game's over. We're going to get Rain versus Sun in the finals. Federico versus Marco is such a good finals, so I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, that kind of covers a lot of different scenarios, but the main scenario that you've got to be covering is just how much health this Archaladon is on. And of course,
okay, let's see. So I know everyone's freaking out about turn 1 of this game, and it was a really hard call, right? Like, basically, like, Paul, I think you could go for... I was thinking maybe you go for Grassy Glide, and Basket Legion should survive Grassy Glide, but I'm thinking Grassy Glide plus Dire Claw might be enough, and that would cover for the Grass Terra on the Basket Legion as well. But I think the close combat was Paul just making a really hard read, like he thought the Archaladon would switch in on turn 1, and saying, you know what, I don't want to just, like, go for that and let your Archaladon get multiple boosts in for free. Yeah, I don't know. I really would have liked to see Dragonite in this matchup, personally. I think, like, Skill Shot is actually pretty scary. And yes, you do have to worry about Archaladon, but you can at least haze a way to get rid of the drops. So I'm wondering if Paul considered Mousehold Dragonite, because I thought that was a lead that actually could make a good bit of sense. But Federico really, really good with these turn 1s, knowing, you know, there's so many things you have to respect from Basket Legion, whether it be the Terra or the switch into Archaladon. It's hard to actually get those turn 1s correctly every time.
One that we were really excited about coming into regulation set.
Mousehold has been pretty ineffective against these crazy strong weather threats. Yeah, totally agree. It just gets blown up.
Who were able to feature in that previous top 4 match. They collaborated very closely on these teams. Just one Pokemon difference between them with Gold.
His play just covered the options because it only loses to Dire Claw and Glide double up in a Basque, which Paul can never afford to do. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what Pelipper in itself is actually really scary, right? Because Hurricane is actually so much damage into his team as well. You never run Struggle Bug on an attacker Volk, but would having it over Heat Wave have made a difference here? No, I don't think so, because you never do enough damage with it. If Marco wins every single weather, we'll have won a tournament this format. That's right, yeah. We've had Sun come in second place, so now let's see if it makes it to the finals. Sun hasn't won a regionals, but it got second.
You know what, I think this is pretty good. Maybe you should give this a go.
If it was a double up into the Basslot instead of Hammer and Apelli, it would have pinned the switch and it still would have been good if there wasn't one. If there was a double up into Basslot instead of Hammer into Apelli. Yeah, I agree. Like close combat Wood Hammer.
What we talk all over on Marco's side of the field and Pelipper coming out, Federico will be really fascinating to see.
Yeah, it's like the position looked really scary for Federico, but the reality is that like Basque Legion is the main threat, but Pelipper is also a huge threat, right? So it's like it's really difficult for you to actually like if you're a Paul come out of that turn and not lose one of your 2 Pokemon, and that's a big deal in itself. Because even once Basque Legion goes down, like Archaladon is still really solid in that matchup, and I don't know, it's like bringing a Quiver Dance Volcarona into rain just feels really bad because you're forced to Terra, and even once you quiver dance up, your heat waves still do such little damage. So, and especially without a defensive Terra, it's like I don't think Volk ever really accomplishes enough in that game. Does the Gaudis win really count as a snow win? I would count it because it's, I don't know, like, it's a shame that the Pokemon that can take advantage of snow are so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It all just comes down to the decisions that these trainers are going to be making.
How will Jump Left guarantee Sun? You have Sunny Day on it. Support Mouse Hold doesn't dictate much play without having Mouse Hold or Annihilate. Good players can disrespect them on. Yeah, I think it's like tough because it doesn't put on KO pressure. It's like it can Super Fang at best, basically. But it's why you were seeing Federico constantly launch attacks into like Mousehold's partner, because you're like, oh, I don't care if Mousehold. If you follow me, sure, I just get a guaranteed knockout onto you, and if you don't follow me and you protect, I get damage onto whatever's next to you. Volcarona's usage is picking up a ton, yeah.
If you go for that Dragonite mode, which is better against the rain, Scale Shot activates stamina several times in a row, so definitely not something that you can rely on.
Why does Mousehold have Rocky Helmet instead of Focus Sash? I think Helmet's just a valuable item right now because there's a lot of Sash users, right? So like imagine Sneasler Dire Claws into you or Close Combats into you. Breaking the Sash is a really big deal on it because then you can just like knock it out with one move rather than two.
Runaway and in the rain as well with that swift swim, and Volcarona doing everything it possibly could. I mean, when you're looking at Paul's team,
all right, Rain versus Sun in the finals. This would be hype. And really two of the best players from Europe. Federico got top 4 at Worlds in 2023, and Marco's top cut the last 2 World Championships, 2 internationals wins. Like both of them, like very much are incredible players and would be, you know, on top of the list for a lot of people for potential world champion, you know, potential future world champions. It's the first time Zard has been viable outside of gimmicks and Mega. People have, I'm trying to think what formats people have used it in, but yeah, this is definitely the strongest like Dynamax or Mega Charizard has felt. But like Dynamax and Megas were around for so long, like Charizard was really relevant in a lot of those formats.
I spoke to Michelle Kelch after that match.
Sun will dominate weather control as Marco is the only one with a weather setting move. Not necessarily, because like Marco can set the weather, but basically it's like you have to commit a lot of resources to do it, right? And even if you get the Sun up, it's like you'll have a Charizard in Sun against Pelipper, Basket Legion, which still doesn't feel amazing, right? So I think, like, to answer your question, Noah, like, Marco has more resources to set up the Sun, but the question is, how much does he actually want to do that? Does he even want to lean into the Charizard mode of his team and Jump Left? Because if you go Charizard, Jump Left, Torkoal, like, Pelipper in itself is really good, not only for its ability to change the weather, but also for its damage output. So I'm really curious which mode Marco commits to, because you could go with the Trick Room mode of Instant P2, Ursaluna, Torkoal. Oh, cool. Interview with both of them. I mean, they're really good friends, too, so this is awesome.
And Marco Silva, our 2 finalists for the Gdansk Regional Championships. And now I want to ask, Federico, how do you feel after that last round when the Basque Legion stayed in and got all those KOs?
It feels amazing. That's my first ever finals in the Master Division.
First finals? Wow, I actually didn't know that. To do it against Marco is so cool.
I plays with Basque Legion in every round I played on stream. So I'm proud of that, and I'm feeling very good right now.
That's amazing. And Marco, I want to ask, you two are on the same team. Have you played against each other?
Who do you guys think will win? Can I do a poll?
In this case,
Engage with my audience. Oh, start a poll. Nice. Who will win?
We just play like really a few games, but yeah, in general, like even for Worlds, we tested like each other's matchups against each other to kind of figure out what else we could have done. But yeah, in this case, no.
And Federico, do you feel that you have an idea of what your teammate might be playing or his play style?
Yeah, I think so. We know each other.
Fede with the early lead. Oh, Marco taking over now. Oh, Marco at 58%.
And also in Worlds 2022. But yeah, there's been
Am I a closed team sheet or open team sheet kind of guy? Definitely open team sheet.
And many times we've been thinking about potentially facing each other in a final, but it felt like
Marco 63% now. Okay.
And now you're running a race.
I think it's a very even matchup in terms of skill level. I think they're both very impressive players. I think Marco's been a little bit more consistent on average. He's one of the most consistent players I can think of in the entire world. Like, he's just been on an unreal run. But it's really cool because both of these guys, I mean, Marco's won a lot of tournaments, specifically like 2 different international championships. And these guys have been so strong. Marco's had a really good season already. I think Federico, he said this was his first top cut, so to convert that top cut into a finals is really impressive.
On the side of Rain, but yeah, I think it's gonna be just on who plays better. I don't see a clear advantage of matchup.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, chat. 62% of you think Marco is gonna win.
Yeah, I wanna shout out my mom and also
What team do I think has the better matchup? I think I like Federico's team a little bit more. Because I think one of the scary things about the Sun matchup is normally the flexibility between going with the Porygon 2 Trick Room core and then going with the Charizard core. You could still bring Charizard into this matchup. I'm very curious if Marco does. But once again, if you bring Charizard, Jumpluff, Torkoal as a trio into Rain, like, Pelipper in itself is really scary. So you really have to get a lot of value out of the Charizard. One of the good things for Marco in this matchup is there's no wide guard on Pelipper, so it's a little bit less scary than normal. So it's basically the point I wanted to make is Pelipper makes it harder for you to lean into one of the core modes of Marco's team, but I don't know. I could like, so then the question is, does Marco want to just go with Trick Room, right? Like Porygon 2, Instant Ursaluna plus Torkoal. Well, Pelipper is still a little bit scary for that. There's Taunt on Electabuzz as well, which can shut down Trick Room. And then with those teams, there's also these hybrid modes where you have like some Tailwind and, like Charizard with the Porygon 2 core. Jumpluff here is also really unique because obviously it offers Rage Powder support, but I think it's Grass Terra Basket Legion on the opposing side, right? So Grass Terra is really scary because you can Grass Terra ignore that Rage Powder.
Are you gonna win, do you think? I hope so. What are your favorite things to shop for? Plushies. I mostly like the big ones.
Is it Overheat Eruption Torkoal? It's both actually. Yeah. I think Jumpluff is a really, like, it could be a really high variance Pokemon in this matchup because, like, if you are bringing it, you probably actually do want to click Sleep Powder with it, but you have to worry about Grass Terras, you have to worry about missing your Sleep Powders, you get blown up by Hurricane from Pelipper as well. Close poll, though. 63% here for Marco, and then 37% here on Fede. You think it's mostly about stopping the Basket Legion? Porygon 2 actually does pretty well into our Chaladon with Terra Fighting Terra Blast, and Ursaluna can clean up quickly if Trick Room is up. Yeah. To stop Basket Legion, you know, you've got Incineroar as for Intimidate, and then you can switch in Torkoal as well. So, like, leading Instant P2 and then hard switch into Torkoal turn 1. The scary thing is, like, getting up Trick Room is not necessarily the easiest because you have to deal with the potential taunt from Electabuzz. But I'm really curious for what modes the players want to lean into. Because, I don't know, having used the Charizard team that Marco's using, I think, like, bringing Charizard into Pelipper often feels kind of bad.
Yeah, it's big, right?
But it could work here. But you have to position it so well.
Here we go. Told you it was huge, right?
How is Hisuian Lilligant? Kind of underplayed for best of 3 tournaments, in my opinion. It's been very strong on ladder, and it's finished, like, 2nd and 3rd at the end of the ring season. Sunny Day Jumpluff could come in clutch. Yeah, I'm curious about it. Like, because, like, if you could use it to change the weather, but then, like, you're then probably just clicking Sleep Powder afterwards. It's like a question of how much do the players actually value that weather control. Like, Jumpluff doesn't. If you click Sunny Day, you like maybe force a switch out. It could be good into, like, I mean, if Pelipper Basket Legion is led, you could go like Jumpluff. Jumpluff Torkoal would actually be really interesting because then you could change the weather and you have Sleep Powder pressure immediately, and you could like Sleep Powder Overheat double up into a slot.
Once it's on the plane, you're good to go.
Do I miss Farigiraf? It feels like it completely fell off this entire reg. Farigiraf, yeah, it's been interesting. It actually won a special event over, I think it was in Peru. But it's not a lot of people have been talking about it. I've seen some good Ursaluna Blood Moon teams with it, but I think it's just, yeah. People are leaning more into like Porygon 2. I'm surprised it hasn't seen as much usage, but it definitely can still succeed.
I hope you are ready. I hope you've got snacks at the go.
All right, we got 63% of you thinking Marco's going to win. So let's see.
My name is Ben Kiriakou, joined here on the desk at the end of this tournament by the wonderful Zoe Liu.
Oh, I didn't know that. Marco's beat 3 different rain teams in his run, one of them being Terran, who's a really strong player. Yeah, like, I have no doubt he has run this matchup so many times. Like, you're not going to bring a Sun team into a tournament when Rain is, you know, one of the top team compositions. So I'm very eager to see what his matchup plans are, because I'm sure he's studied this a lot.
They mentioned both of them feel that it's a very, very even matchup, and this is going to be.
Do I think Reg H could see the return of Choice Band Araquanid? Where is it returning from? I can't remember the last time I saw Choice Band Araquanid.
My goodness. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm also surprised Ursaluna Blood Moon isn't used more, but its usage rate shot up in this tournament. It was in was it like number 7 or number 8 in usage? Anyway, it's finals time, guys. Let's do it. Let's get hype.
And he's been mostly uncontested in the matches that we've seen. I'm sure he's
Thanks to you all for tuning in. We've had almost like 1,100 viewers at the peak, which is really cool, especially for me just turning this on. So appreciate you all for coming out and watching the co-stream, and hope you've been enjoying it. I think the top 4 games were both honestly really one-sided. There really wasn't too much to dissect. It was really tough for the losing side to honestly accomplish too much with them. It was interesting though, because both the top 4 teams were really similar. Like the Golden Go, we saw Golden Go on one team. We saw Volcarona on both teams. Support Mouse will be used on both. So let's see. My guess is Marco doesn't lean into Charizard, at least for game 1. I would expect like heavy emphasis on Porygon 2. Like Porygon 2 Instant Torkoal Ursaluna, I don't know, feels like a really solid combo. But you do have Jump Bluff for the weather control, right? I think Jump Bluff is just a spooky Pokemon because it doesn't have damage output. So if you're bringing Jump Bluff, you really need to get value out of whatever is next to the Jump Bluff. Can Marco fake out Trick Room, or does Electabuzz have Ghost Terra? That's actually a good question. Let's bring out the team sheets. So I don't remember off the top of my head. Marco's team sheet. Federico's team sheet. It is Ghost Terra Electabuzz, yeah. So that would get around turn 1. Luan, thank you for the $5. Appreciate you. Would this be the first Charizard Major win without Mega or G-Max? I think so, yeah. Thoughts about Hisuian Samurott? Underplayed. We saw 2019 World Champion, sorry, 2022 World Champion World Acuna use it and get top 8 at the regionals. It's definitely underused in general. Oh my god. Inexorable, thank you so much for the $5 as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate you all for tuning in. You love this match. Is going to be Budget, Kyogre, and Groudon, yeah. The team sheets, or Victory Road tweeted them out. I can actually link them. Hold on. That might be easier for you all to follow along. Federico. Oops. In the future, I'll like try to set up commands and stuff so people can follow along easier. Fede. This is Fede's team sheet. And this is Marco's.
Had two their opponents and just played so convincingly. There wasn't too much overwhelming RNG on either side. It was just a matter of who got the better.
Yep, we are going to have more matches. This is the finals. Finals is about to start. They're just getting ready, so we should get started within a few minutes. Do I miss Paradox Pokemon? Not really, honestly. Do I think Drifloon will ever be good? Some people have used it to good success. It's day 2 to a couple of tournaments and got top 8 at a regionals over in Europe, so it's definitely viable, but it's not the easiest Pokemon to use.
That's what you need to do. You need to force those mind games. You need to put the pressure on.
What sites I'm using? It's always the same sites, Zashi. It's always Victory Road or Lab Mouse.
Put it in a position where it's able to do so.
What do I predict as leads? For Marco, I think like Instant Porygon is probably the safest option. You like low-key could go Jump Left Torkoal, but it's so bad if Federico doesn't lead Pelipper, because then you just switch in Pelipper and both Pokemon feel so bad. So I'm thinking Instant Porygon if I'm Marco, but he's the one with the experience in this matchup, so we'll see. And then on the opposing side, you could still go Pelipper Basculegion. A lot of different options, like Electabuzz Basculegion allows you to flip turn while still pressuring with Wave Crash. Let me pull up. Let's see, Federico, what else could you lead with? You could go Rilla or Chowdon would be interesting to like pressure with defense boost immediately.
Yes, exactly. And
But then you're vulnerable if it's Insim Porygon. You can fake out Porygon turn 1, but then you can just get Flare Blitz on Rillaboom, which feels kind of bad. I'm wondering if King Gambit ever comes out in this matchup, because it could take advantage against the Insin. And like having plus like 3 Sucker Punch if you have Defiant activated and get a Sword Stance off is really scary. But I don't know, you're up against fighting Terra Blast Porygon, which is scary. So I'm trying to think, okay, if Marco goes Incineroar Porygon as the lead, what does Federico want to go with? I think Electabuzz King Gambit is interesting. Alright, I think we're about to get into it though. Electabuzz Gambit. Both players also probably want to bring their weather because shutting down the opposing weather is really good, and Pelipper here is actually quite good offensively as well. The Ursaluna on Marco's side is Ghost Terra, which means that you're vulnerable to Fake Out. You can get around Fake Out, but if you Terra, then you're weak to Sucker Punch from King Gambit. Yeah, I haven't talked about King Gambit very much. It's like interesting because Electabuzz Gambit is so bad in a Charizard, but I think it could actually work against a Trick Room mode.
They did mention the previous interview, they haven't played against each other quite that much, but they are sure to know the capabilities of their opponents.
Oh, Fede doesn't have Flip Turn, it's Protect. Yeah, you're right. Okay, you can't even Flip Turn out. I wonder how many times he's actually clicked that. That's fascinating. Wait, I thought we saw him have Flip Turn in a game, though. Am I, like... Let's see. But you're right, the open team sheet says Protect. I didn't even look at his moves because he was clicking Wave Crash so frequently. Okay. It's Protect. Wait, it is Flip Turn. Yeah, he does have Flip Turn. The open team sheet victory road tweeted was wrong then, huh? Okay. That's what I thought.
These are titans of the game. Marco, they have a little bit more accomplishments compared to Federico, but both of these players know exactly.
Yeah, the leads will be huge in this one.
Such an impressive run throughout this tournament to reach this stage.
Well, let's take a recap at Federico's team here. Rillaboom carrying that loaded.
Yeah, the team sheet's actually incorrect. That's interesting.
Sword Stance, Kowtow Cleave, and Sucker Punch.
Sometimes it happens where it's like what's in the database isn't saved to what the actual team sheet is.
Providing that redirection support. The Electabuzz managing to beat out all of the other Magmar in the tournament. We thought Magmar was winning the Electabuzz Magmar conversation, but it looks like Electabuzz.
Yeah, I think the dynamic of this matchup is just super interesting. So let's see. Like, I think if you could go Electabuzz Gambit, Rillaboom, Pelipper, but then that's a pretty Gambit-centric strategy, which is scary. Basculegion does apply a ton of offensive pressure here, right? Archaludon's interesting because the Assault Vest isn't actually that, like... Yeah, it helps you survive a little bit, but you're not getting enough damage off in return. Like, and you have to worry about just taking really powerful, like, overheats, eruptions. You're weak to Ursaluna as well. You're kind of forced to Terra. I wouldn't lean into Archaludon, but I don't know. I guess there's a world in which, like, you value the defense boost with body press, but there's also clear Smog on Torkoal on the opposing side. So I don't know. I don't like Archaludon in this matchup personally.
That sounds like a good plan, and as a backup, you've got Charizard there going a little bit faster, and the Jump Bluff being able. And
to clarify, we've seen the Basculegion on Federico in the actual game UI, so we know that it's not Protect, it's Flip Turn.
Option for its teammates, just keeping them safe from any super effective water type moves. Jump Bluff being Park Grass is going to.
Why is Jump Bluff being used? Jump Bluff is used because it is a fast Tailwind user that also gets access to Rage Powder and Sleep Powder, and it's flying type, so it's immune to Ursaluna, which Marco has, and the Earthquakes that Ursaluna can go for. Who do I think will win? I think I like favor Federico's team a little bit more. I think they're both really strong players, but I think Marco probably has a lot of experience. Charizard's out! He did it! The Madman did it, and it is Electabuzz Gambit! Oh, this is sick, because I think Instant Porygon 2 is like normally the obvious lead that you would consider, right? But Charizard is so good into this, so it's really hype. It's not easy to bring Charizard into this matchup, but I think Marco clearly has the experience here, so this is already really interesting because you are facing down a ton of potential offensive pressure on here on turn 1. Oh man, like follow me. You can follow me Dark Terra. Yep. Ooh, does this KO? Oh, he calls it! Says, I think you're gonna go for this. Just brings out Ursaluna. Is this Trick Room getting set up now? Oh, that's a sick... Yeah, I knew Marco had some... He was cooking something for sure. Like, you don't bring this team and not have some unique lines, but that was sick. Oh my goodness. You bait out the Terra immediately, and if Trick Room is getting set up here, Ursaluna is so scary. Huge turn 1 though, especially because he opted for the Sucker Punch rather than the Kowtow Cleave. Oh. Just that turn 1 alone should highlight, like the lead into the turn 1 should highlight why Marco is such a good player. Okay, so it's just going to be Terra Blast instead to cover for taunt, which makes sense. I'm also curious how fast Ursaluna actually is here relative to the King Gambit. So going for a taunt again. Yep, okay. You want to go for taunt here. Taunt and protect makes sense. Ursaluna still is applying a lot of offensive pressure though, right? You have to be really scared, obviously, about just eating up, like, say, an Earthquake. Terra Blast doing less than half makes things, like, a little bit more challenging. I think if it was, like, over half, you could potentially threaten it with another knockout immediately. So, the Ursaluna on this team should be fast, because you have Tailwind on Jump Love. So, my bet is that it outpaces the King Gambit, right? Which is why Marco actually didn't want to set up Trick Room on turn 1. Because when you have Jump Love on the team, you want to run enough speed investment on Ursaluna to outspeed a lot of things under Tailwind. It's probably close to the same speed that the one I used was. Yeah, because this team is near identical to it. And I found it from Marco specifically. Okay, so Taunt comes out. Yeah, just Terra Blasting again. Okay. And then you can snipe off the Electabuzz now. Yep. This now grants the free switch-in into Rillaboom. Wait, is there Rillaboom in the back, or is it Pelipper Basket Legion? Is Electabuzz tanky enough with EV Light? No. Yeah, it's Peli Basket Legion, so there's no Rillaboom. You do at least now have super effective pressure onto both, but if you are Marco, you can just switch Porygon out into Torkoal now, and then Weather Ball. Switch into Torkoal, and then just go for the KO onto King Gambit. I like this though. Okay, yeah. But you can I think Headlong Rush probably KOs Gambit anyway, so if it's a Headlong Rush here and you eliminate the Basket Legion, you win the Weather War. But if it's Facade and Basque actually switches in on the Facade, it's huge. So here's the switch into Torkoal that I was calling out. I would guess it'd be Torkoal. Yep, exactly, okay. So Weather now active. If you is Headlong Rush here into the Basket Legion slot, it's an amazing turn from Marco. What a turn 1 though. Great game plan. And Hurricane misses. Yep, Headlong Rush. Perfectly played by Marco. That's a one-hit knockout. The game plan was just so smart here. I think he really just called out the Electabuzz King Gambit lead. And Electabuzz Gambit is the response to Instant Porygon 2, which was what I thought would be a reasonable lead for Marco to go with, right? So Marco had the lead advantage, and he made a really nice turn 1 play. Baits out the Terra. Now he wins the Weather War. He's up 4-2 as well. Gambit comes back out, but now Charizard is just scary in itself. You still have to deal with fighting Terra Porygon 2 as well. And a Pelipper in the sun just feels so bad here, especially with that Hurricane miss on a Torkoal. So I think we'll see Marco take game 1 here. That was a beautiful turn 1 play. You don't think Headlong kills the King Gambit? I would be curious about that calc. But yeah, Porygon is a super safe switch in right now. Hurricane connects here. Does do a hefty amount. Kowtow Cleave also comes out. Good double up. So bringing some momentum back into Federico's side. But Porygon now has that download boost, and you can get Charizard out, and like the combination of Charizard plus Porygon is just so scary.
To just go for a Trick Room if he wants to do so and allow that Ursaluna to really dominate this endgame.
Okay, yeah, I think... So Marco's still taking his time. The game's not over yet. Charizard could obviously miss its moves, and you still have to deal with that Black Terra Sucker Punch. But Charizard here does have Weather Ball, so you could just Weather Ball. If you're Gambit, you could Protect here. You could go for the Sucker Punch. The question, the scary thing is then you're taking a potential Terra Blast in return. So you're just going to go for Sucker Punch. Ooh, okay. Hurricane and Protect. Okay, yeah, I like that play the most. But it looks like Marco called it. So he probably doubled up onto Pelly with Weather Ball. Okay, he just went for Heat Wave. You could miss, but Heat Wave is just the safer option because you don't have to worry about protects, basically. Yeah, well, that brings Pelly down to 1 HP. It's just scary because you can miss. And it misses, but yeah, like the odds of Pelipper pulling this off are always going to be pretty slim. I am curious. Yeah, I want to see the Sucker Punch. Like, does it get the knockout? I would think it does, honestly, but because there's no bulk on Charizard. Yeah, it does get the KO. It just goes to highlight like the turn 1 play by Marco alone, because it would be so tempting to just attack there, right? And if you attack and you just lose the Charizard, it's not a great trade. And wow, look how powerful that is. With that special attack boost, even with Gambit getting rid of its steel typing, it's still enough for a knockout. Yeah, Marco played fantastically in that game 1. Someone posted a calc, by the way. This is good to know. Guts Ursaluna Headlong Rush into the King Gambit is not a one-hit knockout. It does 88% maximum. So Gambit, the turn that it switched into Basque Legion, could have stayed in and just gone for a Kowtow Cleave. Gambit also like had the opportunity to maybe Swords Dance in this game. It got the knockout out of Charizard, but it was a little bit too late. I think the lead, like, Marco had a huge advantage, but he also played, like, turn 1 really well, because there are a lot of players that I think would be tempted to just attack with Charizard there on turn 1, and by switching out and baiting out the Sucker Punch and getting the free damage off with Porygon, that was really big. It puts it in guaranteed KO range from the Ursaluna slot. The Ursaluna switch-in was really nice as well. And I think you're seeing now, like, Porygon 2 is a huge offensive threat in this matchup with that Fighting Terra Blast as well, right? So you're going to have to clear that. I think, like, Federico ideally wants to knock out Torkoal sooner than later, because Pelipper then is actually really consistent with damage output with Hurricane into Fighting Terra Porygon and Weather Ball into Ursaluna. But, like, Federico fell down 2 Pokemon in that game, right? He was the one who was losing his Pokemon first and lost the Weather War. If you win the Weather War with Federico and you've got that Pelipper out, I think it's much more doable. But, yeah, I think Marco just, like, was one step ahead on almost basically every turn in that game. It's really impressive.
Extremely frail, so a really strong attack can just instantly knock them out, and then you're down 1 Pokemon and it becomes harder and harder.
So let's see. What's the adjustment now? I think what makes Marco so scary is he's piloting a team that already has so many different modes, and he's willing to use like unique combinations as well. Like Charizard Porygon 2, I think is not the kind of default lead often with this team, but it makes sense into a weather team because you can then switch Porygon out into Torkoal to set up the sun. If Pelipper is led immediately, you can also switch Charizard out. But imagine, you know, it's like Electabuzz King Gambit and we see a Swords Dance instead. Okay, it's going to be Charizard P2 again. Yep. Oh, it's a run back of the leads. Okay. This is interesting. Special attack boost once again. Like, does Marco just say, I'm going to Heat Wave this time? Because I think, okay, Sucker Punch again. So he's willing to make the exact same play. Because basically, like, let's say you are Federico and you try to make the read and you go for... Ah, he goes for the switch again. So basically, in that scenario, it was like, there's the world where Federico goes for the read and says, you know what, this time you're going to stay in. Or sorry, you're going to switch out again, so I'm going to Swords Dance, or I'm going to Kowtow Cleave instead. And then Marco could just go, you know what? I'm just going to switch in Torkoal and Heat Wave turn 1, and then just blow both Pokemon up. But it's just a run back again. Yep, so once again, calls turn 1 correctly. Taunt comes out. Is it going to be the Terra Blast once again? It is, yeah. So Marco comes out of turn. Like, it's just a run back of turn 1, but... Honestly, if I were in Marco's shoes, I may have just gone for the Heat Wave play. But these guys have probably played against each other so much that they really understand their play styles. And like Federico, he showed that he's willing to just make the exact same play turn 1 every game with we saw that in what, top 8, right? And so yeah, Marco gets the turn correctly again. Now let's see where we go from here. Last time the Electabuzz just fainted. And Federico losing the Pokemon count was really bad. So here's the Terra from Porygon, presumably once again. Someone said it's pretty obvious that the Charizard switches, though. I don't actually think it's completely obvious, because basically you know that you just failed that play turn 1 last time, so you might be greedy and try to go for a Swords Dance or a Kowtow Cleave instead. I think in game 1 totally makes sense. In this turn, it's like really hard, because it's like you don't normally expect to make the same play and have it work out, right? Electabuzz does survive the Terra Blast. Okay, is it Earthquake? No, it's going to be Facade, so you get the knockout onto Electabuzz. This time around, King Gambit will get an extra attack off.
Once again, losing his Electabuzz very early on and losing that redirection.
Kowtow comes out. Yeah, it's really good defensively here. Someone said Black Glass's Terra Dark is a 12% roll to KO full HP Zard. Wow, that's actually really impressive. I let Zartan take it as comfortably. Okay, so now the key thing is that Pelipper's Focus Sash is intact, and it's actually in a really good spot offensively right now. So I think like the turn 2 adjustment by Federico this time was great. And now Marco's in a weird spot where you can switch into Torkoal, right? Like, I think you can just go into Torkoal once again here, yeah. It's going to be Torkoal coming out for the Ursaluna slot, so a big question of does Hurricane connect in the sun right now? Oh, it does connect! How much does it do? I don't think it'll KO. Almost gets the knockout, though. And the confusion! Oh! Does it manage to get an attack off? If it gets a Terra Blast off, your King Gambit will go down. The Weather Wars won, but it hits itself in confusion. Marco knows that could have just been the tournament win right there. Oh my goodness. Yeah, if it's Terra Blast there into the King Gambit, like Marco's up 4-2 with the Charizard in the back, and then Basculegion comes out in the sun, I think the game is legitimately over. So he needed the Hurricane hit into confusion. Oh, okay. If you're Marco, you got to take a deep breath. You got to be composed. But now what's really scary is both slots are just left exposed. You can, Weather Ball into the Porygon slot and just Kowtow into Torkoal. That entire turn hinges off Porygon either surviving the Hurricane, avoiding a crit, and not getting confused or not hitting itself in confusion. It was a very, very high probability turn that Marco just wins the game on the spot, assuming that he was going for Terra Blast onto King Gambit. We knew at +1 it got the knockout previously. If you knock out the Gambit, Federico's stuck with Pelipper and Basculegion on the field. The Basculegion can't even protect, but now, Federico still has the ability to switch out. This turn, very safe to Weather Ball. The idea here for Marco is to now get a free switch into Charizard. And as someone pointed out, the Black Glass's Sucker Punch onto the Charizard is a very minimal roll to actually get the one-hit knockout. So Marco still might be okay here because now you can bring the Charizard out and just Heat Wave. But if you are Federico, what you can do is actually protect King Gambit, switch Pelipper out into Basculegion, Solar Power activates on Charizard, then you have Sucker Punch pressure next turn, and then you can either, if Basculegion faints, you get the free switch into Pelipper. This is what I was saying, like, Pelipper is a really big offensive tool in this matchup. Yeah, okay, here we go. So, if you're Federico, like, do you think the Sucker Punch just gets the one-hit KO? Okay, yeah, he's going for the Protect. Yeah, Protect into Basculegion. That's exactly the play I was talking about. And, like, this is huge because Pelipper, with its Focus Sash still intact, is such a big offensive threat, right? And that's where baiting the Terra out from Porygon was huge. But once again, like, Marco had this game won, in my opinion, if he just didn't get super unlucky that one turn. So, here's Protect on Gambit. Heat Wave comes out. Yep. Like, you can go Heat Wave Eruption, but then you just get the Pelipper in, and Sucker Punch plus Weather Ball, I think, just wins the game. You do get to switch out here, though. Okay, well, I mean, this gives you weather control. Hold on. Yeah, this is actually a really big deal that Eject Pact activates. So I think Marco making the correct play there. And because now Marco wins the Weather War, I think he might be okay, since Ursaluna's healthy. Really good overheat there. Yeah. I think Marco wins this actually now with that overheat play, specifically because he wins the. Well, let's see. Like, you have to switch in Torkoal in order to win the Weather War. Yeah, it's not over yet. Okay, so like you could just Sucker Punch here, but then if you Sucker Punch and Charizard stays in, then Ursaluna just eats up a Weather Ball. Yeah, so he's gonna make the switch here. Okay, but this is scary, right? You're just gonna feint a Sucker Punch now. I think Federico wins. Yeah. Unless this somehow doesn't KO Charizard, but I think we are pretty confident on this knocking out. Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering like if the play for Marco to make was switch Charizard out into Torkoal there. and then attack with the Ursaluna into the King Gambit. Doesn't get the knockout on a Torkoal though, which is big. If you get the KO, the game's definitely over there. Yeah, I thought he would have swapped out Charizard as well. I think he may have made a read that he thought Federico was going to double up on the opposing slot. Torkoal protects now, okay? But I think I would have liked switch into Torkoal and then Facade into the Ursaluna. Also gets the right call here with Sucker Punch. It's really strong. Doesn't do it for the double up though. So Ursaluna will get an attack off here. Let's see. If you're targeting King Gambit, which I think you should, is it a one-hit knockout? Because if so, you could have made this play earlier. And it is like survival on King Gambit. Okay, so that's, yeah. That's what people were saying previously. If you get the knockout there, then it would have maybe been doable. But honestly, with that surviving, I think Fede could have always just played this game relatively safely. If you Sucker Punch, Weather Ball, I don't know. Like, switching in Torkoal is the key turn, I think, that would have maybe given Marco a slight chance. But he got the turn wrong. And it's tough to get so many turns correctly. But it must be really frustrating for him because he had the win. Like, he got so unlucky with Confusion into, like, Hurricane hitting into Confusion activating. So I think, like, if you're Marco, you're like, look, I win that the majority of the time. I just got super unlucky on this one turn. And you also realize now, like, this is what I was saying. Pelipper is a huge offensive threat in this matchup, right? It's not, like, it can do so much damage, especially with that Focus Sash intact. So now it's a question of, do we just run it back with the same leads once again?
Like a bit of a different game there. There's a lot of different.
Yeah, the idea behind not switching Charizard out there is like it's so obvious that Charizard wants to switch in that position. He was thinking, you know what? I'm already behind in this game, so I might as well try to capitalize off my opponent making a mistake. Because I think he was probably thinking, if for example, the Ursaluna gets a one-hit knockout onto the King Gambit with Facade, then I think it's safer to go for that switch. But because you're not knocking out either Pokemon in one hit with the Ursaluna, like, it makes sense to be like, okay, I think the game is actually basically over unless Federico makes an incorrect play.
So that King Gambit is just really key, being also, you know, using a Sucker Punch.
50% accurate Hurricane, 30% Confusion, 33%. Yeah. All right, game 3. It's the same lead. Oh my gosh. Do we see any adjustments? Basculegion is now led. Okay. Threatening the Wave Crash. And this is fascinating because the way the speed order works is the Gambit is slower than the Porygon. So even if Porygon switches out, I really like this adjustment by Fede.
In this situation, if the Pelipper wants to come in,
yeah, if you switch out, look, he's gonna go protect Flip Turn. It's guaranteed damage onto the Charizard. Charizard's in a really scary spot here. You probably want to switch out, right? But let's say you switch out in, what are you gonna switch into? If you switch into Torkoal, Fede wins the Weather War by bringing in Pelipper. If you switch into Ursaluna, you eat up a Choice Band Wave Crash, or sorry, Flip Turn. He's gonna stay in. Okay, is Ghost Terra? Oh, okay, Terra on Porygon. I think this is a huge turn 1 by Fede. I definitely give him the advantage. Goes for the Protect. This is going to do so much. He goes for the Dragon Pulse, though. Okay, so it doesn't do that much, though. Like, when Solar Power isn't active, it's just not that strong. And, oh! Charizard just faints! Is it Trick Room, though, now from Porygon? That was a really nice lead adjustment by Fede. Calling out, saying, you know what, Charizard is not really that scary. Now Electabuzz gets to come in for free. Fede is in a really good spot. And it's not Trick Room, it's just Terra Blast. You've baited out the Terra on Porygon, so I think, like, whoever gets their opponent down to 2 Pokemon first has a huge advantage because you win the Weather War. And this is what I was saying coming into this matchup. Like, I think the Rain is so scary because it puts on more offensive pressure across the board, right? Like, Pelipper just does so much damage. Marco here is in an interesting... Okay, Swords Dance here. You can taunt, obviously. But if you taunt, you eat up the Terra Blast. So he's willing to just go for Follow Me. Okay. Trick Room could go up right now, though. This is not over yet. Definitely not over, but a huge lead by Federico. Okay, so Electabuzz goes for the Follow Me. It's just Headlong Rush. Oh! It just gets the KO. Wait, you just... You didn't Terra. You just feed to Terra Blast. What? Unless Trick Room is going up now. Yeah, because... Okay, whoa. Man, if that were just Terra Blast, that would be a double KO. Marco would have won the Weather War. Oh. Well, this is so interesting now because Trick Room is set up. I think it's really scary that Trick Room has managed to get set up. Like, I think now the favor, I put the advantage in Marco's favor. Because, like, how are you KOing Porygon now without Pelipper hitting the field? Yeah, you have Swords Dance up. Okay, it's going to be the Dark Terra Sucker Punch. But if you're Marco, you could just protect and Terra Blast. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so Gambit, Terra's, but I think you can just protect Ursaluna and get around the Sucker Punch. He's trying to win the game right here by getting the knockout. Does Ursaluna protect? It doesn't! Oh, that's huge! That's huge! And that's the KO, so Federico wins the Weather War. I think I mean, I don't want to call the game yet, but let's see. Oh, not necessarily, because Terra Blast will knock out. But Torkoal is going to set up the Sun first, so Pelipper will win the Weather War, actually, regardless, yeah. Oh, if the Ursaluna just protected there, I think Marco's in such a good spot. This has been, like, just so fast-paced, knockout after knockout. Okay, and now we're going to see the last respects. Choice Band boosted, almost just gets the KO. And now, because Trick Room is set up, the way the Weather will activate is Torkoal sets up the Sun first, then Pelipper sets up the Rain, which is really good for Federico. Oh my goodness. The Weather War has been won. This has been crazy because I was like, oh, Marco's gonna lose. Oh, Federico's gonna lose. And now I think Marco's, I mean, like, Torkoal plus Porygon, does an Ice Beam plus like an Eruption even KO the Pelipper, right? Is the question. You could go for, I don't think you can go for Overheat here. And also, how do you do enough damage to King Gambit, right? Yeah, it's gonna be Eruption here. That does nothing. Plus one Ice Beam, let's see. Okay, he's gonna go for Recover instead, but that's it. I think the game's over from that. You heal, but you just take way too much damage in return. Yeah, it's gonna be the Weather Ball here into Last Respects. Is there any reason to go for Weather Ball over Hurricane there? Like, it doesn't make a difference, I guess, in the end. Either way, yeah. Wow, so much momentum swings into this one. Like, it could have been two different opportunities to Terra Blast with Porygon. The turn that Trick Room went up, if that were just a Terra Blast, I think the game is just over right there. GG. Oh man, you definitely got a feel for Marco. Like, that game too, the way he lost was so heartbreaking. But, you know, credits to Federico because, like, his game 3 game plan adjustment was really nice. Like, I like that he realized, okay, I'm not gonna just get away with, like Gambit Electabuzz isn't really working that well for me, so I'm gonna lean into the Basculegion lead instead, which really threatens the Charizard. Wow. So I think Trick Room cost him the game because the Gambit is slower than the Porygon 2. And he also could have just Terra Blasted that turn. Let he click Trick Room. And he had the special attack boost, so if you Terra Blast and you just... Like, Headlong Rush just one-shot Electabuzz, right? There was no Terra out. So you could have just gotten a double knockout, then it's Pelipper plus Basculegion in the endgame. But then you can just switch in the Torkoal. Okay, I guess now that I think about it, if you switch in Torkoal, then I guess the fear is you get doubled up on the Porygon. So yeah, I guess, like, he felt like he needed Trick Room because he had Charizard gone and he needed Ursaluna and Torkoal under Trick Room. So even if the Terra Blast came out there, I guess it's like the scariest thing is Pelipper Basculegion comes out and then you can just like Hurricane plus Last Respects. No, but if you click Last Respects, then Ursaluna just walls you, so you kind of need to click Wave Crash, in my opinion. And then Ursaluna could switch into Torkoal as you try to set up Trick Room, and then it's a question of whether or not Hurricane connects, and whether or not Hurricane plus Wave Crash and Sun knocks out the Porygon. You could commit to Last Respect still, but then you just hard lose to Ursaluna.
That's exactly why that game 3 showcases that so much, because when you do get the rain up against...
Oh, Pori was faster than Ursaluna. Okay, wait, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. So that doesn't work. You're right. Was that confirmed? Do we confirm that? What turn do we see? But yeah, I think that then the key turn would have been the Protect on the Ursaluna. That turn could have just been Protect Terra Blast. It was in an earlier game. Okay, yeah. So Porygon was faster than Ursaluna, so yeah, Terra Blast would have gone off first. Yeah, that's right. Because the Terra Blast, Electabuzz survived, and then Ursaluna finished it off. So then I think the key turn in this game is the turn that Ursaluna protected. Or Ursaluna just attacked and fell to a Sucker Punch. If it just protected there, then you win, but it's like, it's a call, right? Because Sucker Punch into that slot is super duper obvious, and you might expect Fede to double up into the opposing slot.
More offensively driven teams, and there we see it. The flip turn, not the Wave Crash trainers, the flip turn going in.
It was a really, really fun finals. I think getting that Swords Dance boost was huge, and like the willingness to just bring King Gambit into that matchup was very impressive as well. I think, yeah, this key turn where we saw the Sucker Punch, my guess is Marco was probably reading into King Gambit protecting or doubling into the Porygon 2 slot and said, you know what, I'm just going to attack with the Ursaluna. Marco didn't use Incineroar, but I actually think it makes a lot of sense because Incineroar just like would give King Gambit a boost, which doesn't feel good. Oh, can we do the flip turn to Zard on turn 1? Yeah, let's do that, Calc. Let's see. Charizard. Basculegion. Banded. Flip turn. Oh, it's not even close. It's just a guaranteed KO. Yeah, you have no chance of surviving this. It's so strong. Even in... Wait. Max attack, choice band adaptability, flip turn against Charizard, 162 to 193%. If the sun is up, it still almost gets the KO.
And stop it from going for those really detrimental sucker punches that I think were really the story of this game. I mean, King Gambit was sitting there putting pressure on Marco.
Oh, he's Swift Swim. He's Swift Swim. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Still, okay. With Swift Swim, it's still a KO. It's just instead of 100 like billion%, it is 120%. 120 to 145%. Oh my gosh. The Basket Legion usually have Swift Swim or adaptability. It can actually go both ways. If you're not on a rain team, then adaptability. On rain teams, we've actually seen people move away from Swift Swim and go into adaptability, but both are viable. Man, you gotta definitely feel for Fede though, for Marco to lose on Hurricane Confusion into full confusion or into Confusion hit. Like, but Fede with that game 3 adjustment was really fun to watch.
Sometimes there's those objective plays that
Hello Rush defense drop probably doomed his Ursaluna even without the Swords Dance from King Gambit. I think if Swords Dance doesn't go off, let's see. I wouldn't expect Ursaluna to faint if Gambit isn't boosted at -1, even with Dark Terra. But the Ursalunas on this team are a little bit less bulky because you want to run speed investment. Black Glasses, Terra, Sucker Punch into -1 defense Ursaluna. So max attack Black Glasses Sucker Punch into -1 Ursaluna does 78%, 67 to 78%.
Federico has fought his way through the entire competition. Look at that bracket that he's had.
Yeah, what a run. To beat Michael Kelsch and Marco in order to win the tournament is like, I think like one of the most satisfying things about playing Pokemon at a high level and winning tournaments is like knowing that you beat a lot of strong players along the way. So huge congrats to Fede, and great run by Marco as well. I mean, he was, I think, like 95% chance of winning that game too, in my opinion.
This weekend as well, bringing a team, I think that maybe we saw a little.
I personally think Marco played well overall. Like, I think you can point to that one turn where he didn't protect, but like with Pokemon, like sometimes it's just like someone will get a prediction incorrectly, right? And when you're up against a player of Federico's caliber as well, like Marco probably felt compelled to try to make a read or two. And like the thing with these reads are if you get it correctly, the game completely swings into your favor. So it was like high risk, high reward plays that basically didn't work out.
Very hyper offensive team. Marco did use it in a global.
Do I prefer Band with Swift Swim or Scarf with adaptability? I think Band with Swift Swim, but that might just be recency bias from it winning the tournament. And what, yeah, for Fede to come back after losing game 1 like so decisively, I think was like really good mental resilience. And Pokemon is a game where sometimes like you're gonna need to get a little bit lucky to win, right? I think like it's very rare for someone to win an entire tournament and be like, oh yeah, I didn't get lucky at any different point throughout my matches, right? You're gonna need to have some good fortune, and part about Pokemon is also capitalizing off of that good luck, right? That luck one one game for Fede, but he still needed to win another game, and he showed like the mental resilience to make that adaptation, switch into the Basket Legion lead, mix things up a little bit, and Marco was kind of just willing to lean into the same core all 3 games, and Fede was able to take advantage of that.
And I think one of the biggest examples of that is the development.
And I'm trying to think, okay, if you are Marco, what is the adjustment that you would make into Basket Legion plus the King Gambit lead? It could just be... It's kind of spooky, actually. Yeah, it's like Porygon 2. It could have been a Charizard switch on turn 1, but I think it makes sense for why he didn't want to switch, because he didn't want to lose the Weather War. And like Charizard is so explosive in this matchup, but it also faints so easily. And if you switch into Torkoal on turn 1, you just eat up flip turn, and then Pelipper comes out, and you're in such a bad spot. So I think like Marco was like didn't really have too many options straight from turn 1 of the battle. He could have gone for Terra with Charizard, but then you don't get to Terra Porygon, and that feels really bad. Yeah, I was thinking Charizard Jump Bluff, but the problem is it's Grass Terra Basket Legion on the other side, so you can just Grass Terra it to get around Sleep Powder, and then switch in Torkoal, or sorry, switch in Pelipper, and then just Wave Crash into the Charizard slot. Yeah, let's see what other teams got top 8 here. I mean, Rillaboom is everywhere. Ooh, the 7th place team is really cool. A lot of Volcarona balance now. Yeah, Volk is everywhere now, it seems like, which is interesting. The 7th place team is really cool. Like Screens, Mouse Ape, and then Ursaluna Blood Moon as well.
How well Mousehold has done this weekend.
It has. Mousehold is just a really fantastic support Pokemon. It's got Follow Me and Friend Guard. That ability...
He could go for Sunny Day plus Attack Basket Legion. Yeah, but you're going to switch into Pelipper on turn 1, right? So Jump Bluff is slower, and then Swift Swim is activated on the Basket Legion. So if you go like Basket Legion Gambit into Charizard Jump Bluff, turn 1, if you Sunny Day, well, Basket Legion Swift Swim is active before Sunny Day goes up, right? So then you just Grass Terra and then Wave Crash into the Charizard slot and get a KO. And then you ignore Rage Powder as well. I think the Grass Terra makes Jump Bluff not bringable.
Just redirection.
Exactly.
Follow Me is really important, and any sort of redirection.
It is Grass Terra, right?
Really important in this meta game.
Yeah, it is.
With all of the fast, powerful, offensive threats that we have. And even just
did our Chaldon usage drop? I think it was still pretty high up, but I don't know what the actual usage stats were.
Sort of sit on the field quite often with a Terra Dark, with a Terra Ghost.
Anyway, that's one heck of a finals. That was really hype. And the chat is just showing all the delayed messages now. Is that the exact team I featured? It's just one slight change. Clear Smog on Torkoal instead of Helping Hand, which helps out against Dondozo. And like some of the EVs might be different, but otherwise the sets are the same.
There's actually a lot of redirection we can see. Federico running.
And I found the Charizard team because of Marco specifically. So yeah, it's awesome to see him like roll up to this tournament and just almost win. Like, really well done.
One of them did, and then there was also Sinistra. So just goes to show that redirection is so important in this format. You need it to.
So cool to see you all tune out to the stream. Thank you. We had almost 1,600 viewers at the peak during the finals, which is kind of crazy. So I appreciate you all for tuning in today, especially as I just woke up and turned on the stream. This is really neat. Thank you guys. I will definitely try to co-stream more, like, and it would be cool to, yeah, announce these so that you guys know I'm actually doing it rather than just turning on my stream. Oh, okay. They put the usage stats up. Dondozo at number 7 is crazy. Also, keep in mind, like, day 2 in this tournament was a little bit smaller overall, right? This tournament overall was just smaller size.
Gdansk, our most recent regionals, is up there. Also with that, Chaldon and
Last Respects plus Weather Ball, even with it being Sun, KO's Porygon 2, since Last Respects did 75%. Yeah, probably. I would agree with that. I wish we could have seen the world in which... Well, like I said, the play I was talking about doesn't actually work. Like the Terra Blast not coming out since, yeah, Porygon's actually faster than Ursaluna. Yeah, to me, like, game 2 hinged off 2 different plays. The one being Hurricane getting the confusion, like the hit into confusion on Porygon, and then the Sucker Punch into Charizard when that could have been a switch. And then game 3, just Sucker Punch into Ursaluna, I think, won the game. Yeah, because then you just, like, don't have enough offense in the end game. And then Porygon going for Recover there as well. Could have been an Ice Beam, and with Ice Beam, you at least fish for a chance of freeze. With Recover, you just heal, but you're not doing enough damage. There's too much damage pressure from the opposing side.
hopefully going into day 2 and playing either.
Yeah, I can't believe Dozo usage was that high though. A part of it though is, as you see, Tatsugiri was obviously a lot lower, so a lot of people were using soloed on Dozo, which is cool.
Something like a golden go or anything else that can...
Anyway, co-streaming is a blast, guys. I'll try to do it more. It's really cool to have so many of you tune in. In the future, I'll try to be a little more prepared as well. Like, it'd be cool if I could, you know, print out the team sheets like I'm actually a commentator and go through it and, like, take notes. Like, I missed the speed interaction on the Porygon or Saluna, which is why the play didn't actually... Like, the play, I was like, oh, it could have just been Terra Blast. Didn't actually end up working, but there's so much going on. Como and Reg H, it's still underrated. Like, it's had a lot of good performances, and I think people are still sleeping on it a little bit because it hasn't won a tournament, but it's had multiple top 8s and top 16s. Like, this Pokemon is no joke. But yeah, I think Tatsu being in the top 12 means that a lot of people are actually using Dozo Tatsu, so it's making a comeback. Like, this tournament had a lot of things that people were expecting to be good early on, right? Like Volcarona, Dondozo Tatsu, Ursaluna Blood Moon, and those were in the top 12 usage rates, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, what a finals, guys. All right. Thank you for tuning in. That's going to be it from me. I am posting a Road to Ranked in a few hours, so please go check that out. It's the team that won the last Grand Challenge. And thanks for tuning in to this very impromptu co-stream. I'll see you guys on Road to Ranked and hopefully the next stream in the future. And thanks to all for tuning in once again.
To an all-Italian showdown right here at the end.